I knew that was something I needed to have.
All right, like in Nuclear, which is my
There are
book.
clearing of House of Information.
None other than one of those very heroes. So, for those who don't know, I'd like you to take a couple minutes.
Are you originally from the Charleston area?
And the youth in South Carolina.
Here, I'm raised here.
Right, well, my name's Alex.
The team is when the Emmanuel spread love and
Hello world, and welcome back to Real Talk ReZsaun when nothing's off limits. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you are here with me, and I appreciate that. I am your host, ReZsaun Lewis. Now, here on Real Talk ReZsaun, everything's debatable, so in any given week, we can be discussing anything from sports to music to politics. I am your host, ReZsaun Lewis. I want to thank everybody for joining me tonight. Tonight, we're having a very special show. For those who are new to the show, Real Talk ReZsaun has a goal of shining a light on the great things that are happening right here in the Low Country. I know that we are in the midst of a presidential election, but that is not the only important election, and it's not the most important election when we talk about making a change and a difference on the ground level, right here where we are in the Low Country. So tonight, I'm going to have several candidates for elected office. Some are incumbents, some are trying to unseat the incumbents. All I ask you to do, whether they're a Republican, a Democrat, no matter what seat they're running for, hear them out. Give them an opportunity. See if they're saying something that you can appreciate and something you can roll with. And if so, let's see if we can vote for them. All right? All right. So I want to get the first interview started. And my first interview is actually going to be a video interview. My first interview is a video interview, and I'm actually not going to be able to speak to the young lady because of the fact that she has a prior engagement, but she did send me a recorded video. So I want to make sure I let you guys hear that. So without further ado, I present Miss Kristin Graziano, who is running for the Sheriff's Office of Charleston County.
Okay, hey everybody, it's Kristin Graziano here. I'm your Democratic candidate for sheriff. ReZsaun invited me on to Real Talk with ReZsaun and Latowya, and I have scheduling conflicts, so I said, why don't we record this and ask me a few questions, and I'm happy to answer those questions. When this is airing, I'll be in another forum. So I'm glad, ReZsaun, you gave me the ability to do this. I thank you very much for that. So I'm going to read these questions that you submitted to me off my phone, and then I'm going to answer these questions. It says, first one is, how can your influence impact the community as a whole? I would assume that's when I'm elected sheriff. So my influence can impact the community. Well, ReZsaun, the beauty of being a local race is we can have an immediate impact on the community, not just the community, but also in the sheriff's office where I will be serving. So that's the beauty of it. We can have an immediate impact. So part of that impact is, recognizing that we have work to do, and I think part of that impact is we can implement programs and processes that benefit the community, such as community policing. So that's just, and I'm thinking that's what you're asking for. Second question was, what is your short-term and long-term goal of the Charleston County Sheriff's Office? So I will tell you that if you look at my 100-day plan on my website, it's on KristinForSheriff2020.com. That will give you a better idea of my short and long-term plan, but let me break it down a little bit for you. So in the short term, I believe the very first thing we need to do is we need to have audits. And I think that not just of our practices, but also financial audits. I think those can be a very valuable resource for us going forward, especially when we talk about reform. And internally, we need to restructure, really need to cut the fat in the sheriff's office and remove those layers of insulation that have existed and really that have caused the communication to stop at certain levels. There's been this disconnect. So that's number two. The third thing is, based on the audit, we have now this opportunity to bring in a community advisory board and really reestablish our communications and transparency within the community that we serve. That's very important to me because the community's voice going forward, especially when it comes to reform and transparency, is very, very important to our success. The fourth thing was that, and this was part of the immediate impact, is the rescinding the 287G agreement with ICE. A lot of people don't know this, but Charleston County is in a voluntary agreement with the federal government to house nonviolent, non-criminal immigrants who were picked up maybe on non-criminal charges, driving charges, or any kind of charges. We have agents, deputies trained to identify if they are legal or not. And when they identify that those folks are not here legally, they have the opportunity to pay their fines and for whatever they were charged with. But if it were you, you would have then be released from jail, but they don't have that luxury. They get held on an ICE detainer and they get sent back to their originating country, many of which have never been there. So they don't know it. They don't know their country. So it's really contradictory to building our relationship with the community. When you separate families like that, it has a dramatic impact financially, as like psychologically, emotionally on those families. And it's a terrible policy. It's costing taxpayers about $4 million to $4.2 million every year. Taxpayers are paying that to separate our people from their families and send them back to a place they're not familiar with. And I don't think we can afford that. We can't afford that for our Latinx communities, but we also can't afford it financially for our community. These are nonviolent, non-criminal immigrants. Now, violent people need to be sent back. There's no. I'm not talking about that. I do want to keep the community safe, but this is just something that's very, it's detrimental to building our community back up. So that's something that we'll go. And the other one is redefining. I think the last one was the redefining our role in incarceration, and by doing a couple things. We have a jail. We don't have a prison system. So we need to work to reduce the population, because the population in Charleston County has always been, you can check the numbers, about 1,000 to 1,100, 1,200 historically for the past 7 or 8 years until COVID. And it's a little less now. It's not 50% reduction, but it's a little less due to COVID, because they've relaxed some bond issues with folks that don't pose a threat. Well, we've always had the ability to do that, but with all the pressure from the protests, now that has become a priority. So we work on reducing that population. We establish education-based services that target the population that's in there, and we focus on a certain age group up to the age of 26, 27, when we know their brains are still developing. We have the ability to affect behaviors, and so we also, not just education, we also focus on bringing in job training and apprenticeship programs. We know that there is a direct correlation between poverty and crime. ReZsaun, we've talked about that before. And so when you focus on reducing that poverty, we can really have a positive impact on the criminal element. So those are my short-term goals. Long-term, I just want to establish an agency that leads the nation in reform efforts. I think that I'm not going to be there forever. And I hope I hand it over to somebody else that can keep it going and keep moving the sheriff's office in a forward movement. All right, let me read your third question. It says, out of all the experiences in law enforcement industry that you have already had, why the role of sheriff and why now in 2020? I think, Latowya, you asked me that question, and I will ask you, why not? Let's be real. If you've had the ability to vote since 1988, some of you weren't even born in 88, you've never had a choice in who you select as your sheriff. There's never been competition. There's never been a choice. And I think that is dangerous for democracy. Look, with longevity in any position, you get this enormous power that comes with it. And the power is oftentimes abused because nobody's holding you accountable. You don't have anyone calling you out. But also with that longevity, it's easy to become complacent and really out of touch with the issues of the community, as well as your own organization. And I believe that's exactly what's happened in Charleston County. And because of this disconnect, we have a community that is really broken, and we don't have people in place to help heal. So I've always led from choosing over, what's right versus what's popular. I'm not a politician. Never dreamed of being a politician. I'm a citizen and a servant, and my only goal in my life and in my life's work is to leave this earth a little bit better place for my kids, your kids, and for all generations to come than when I got here. And I don't think that's asking too much. I think that's our job. And it's my job to do whatever I can to lift my community up, and keep them safe and treat all people with dignity and respect. If I'm not a part of the solution, ReZsaun, I pretty much just perpetuate the problem. I think you'd agree with that. So I'm here to solve problems, not make excuses. So I'm going to ask you, why not? Those are the 3 questions that you guys had submitted to me. If you want to know more about the things that I want to accomplish, the things that I stand for, and just my position on issues, you can reach out, KristinForSheriff2020.com, or you can email me, KristinForSheriff2020@gmail. I'd be happy to reschedule another meeting with you guys. I'm sorry that our conflict happened today, but it's just an incredibly busy time for us. And I will be running at 6 o'clock, and then I have to be on another meeting at 7. And here we go. It's not going to stop. So I'm glad I got the opportunity to share this with you. But please stay in touch, and let's keep these conversations going. And I look forward to more conversations with you guys. All right. Good seeing you. Peace out. Bye.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much to Kristin Graziano. I really appreciate her doing that. Like she said, she had a previous engagement, but she still found a way to press her way forward. Just so you guys know, we are 5 minutes behind because of a late start on my part. So that means that we're going to be shifting everybody back about 5 minutes. Okay, about 5 minutes. But my first in-house guest is none other than Mr. Herbert Fielding, who is running for Charleston County
Thank you
Coroner.
for having
Thank
me.
you so much
I
for joining me,
appreciate it.
sir.
Well,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Let's get right to it.
Well,
Please
I'm
introduce
Herbert
yourself
S.
to the
Fielding.
audience.
I'm the son of the Senator, Herbert U. Fielding. I've spent my entire life in the funeral service. I've worked for the state agencies. I've worked in criminal court, court of common pleas. I've worked for the Labor Department and also for the veterans employment. I was an employment specialist for veterans. So I've got a varied experience in governmental agencies, and I would call myself a bit of a different kind of bureaucrat, because I don't think that I need to grow government or spend up all your money. I think that I need to, in any way that I can save the taxpayers' monies, I need to do so. And I think that the agency that we're looking at needs that kind of attention.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about the agency that you're running for. You're running for the role of Charleston County Coroner.
Yes, sir.
First of all, can you explain to people in the audience, because I think it's also important when we're having discussions about the people who are running for them, that people understand what the role of that specific person is in the community. So could you please speak to what the role of the coroner is in Charleston County?
The original, and coroner means to the crown. The original coroner was sent into the colonies to make sure that the sheriff didn't do anything that the king didn't know about. And he was a check and balance on the sheriff. The bottom line is that job has at the time, if there was a death, the coroner could have a public inquest and establish the manner and cause of death. It's still that. The coroner still has the last word on the manner and cause of death. And when I say manner, okay, did you have a heart attack? If you were in a car accident and did you have a heart attack? The heart attack would be the cause of death. The manner was the car accident. So there's two stages to what the coroner does, but that is what goes on the death certificate that is then produced for the family. The five, you have homicide, suicide, accidental death, undetermined, and there's one more. I can't think of what it is right now, but it's there. But there's the different categories of death, and the coroner does that. The coroner establishes that.
Okay. And what was going to make you a good coroner?
I think my past experience, because I've been an auditor of programs. I've done criminal work. I've worked in a funeral home since I was probably 9 or 10 years old. So I've been in the funeral industry. So I know what it is to deal with those persons who survive, because all of the concentration does not need to be on the death. The concentration should be on what are the dead saying to the living, because there's an enormous amount of information that's collected by the coroner, because most of the time, all we know about is somebody got shot or somebody got stabbed or something of that nature. That's where we do autopsies and or when there's a questionable death. But you've got other categories. You got heart attacks. You got 3,000 people die in Charleston County on a yearly basis. And we're spending $2.5 million to do what is really basically 482 autopsies. So we're paying an enormous amount of enormous amount of money to do those autopsies, and not using the system. When I say the system, when you're in a governmental system, you do requests for proposal. What if I advertise to the forensic pathologists, how much can you do these autopsies for, and try to get the price down, because we're paying $5,500 for an autopsy right now. And this particular office, as Kristen just said, has been occupied for 22 years by the same person. A lot of personal arrangements, a lot of kind of inside deals at exorbitant prices. So it's time for somebody else to come in and try to at least save the taxpayers, their monies, or get them the best result for their monies. That's true.
I think that's a great point and a great place to sort of like put a pin in the discussion right there in terms of the spending of that department. Where do you think that there are areas that we can improve the level of spending that we have, if not trimming down? What could we be more efficient in our spending in that department of the coroner's office?
Well, let me make a simplistic argument.
All right.
Okay, so there's 482 autopsies on a yearly basis. We see the people that, there's categories that require autopsy. How come, if it's 482, how come we're spending $2.5 million in Charleston County? And Charleston County is probably half the size of Richland County, which spends $2.5 million a year. And so, there's other things that can be dealt with. There persons that are doing one job that might be able to do two, because what if you were the evidence technician? How much evidence comes in on a daily basis? So how busy are you? So you got to look at it like that. Even the death investigators. Death investigators have, a coroner's representative has to go out on some categories. If you die in a hospital less than 24 hours, the coroner has to come out and represent. If you're killed in an accident, the coroner has to represent. The coroner has control of the body. On any kind of accident scene or death scene, the coroner has control of the body to look at. So how much of that are you doing on a daily basis? Because ain't nobody dying every day. And then not 5 or 6 people dying on a daily basis. So there may be a need to bring that down. My program auditing process is going to be, so that I can approach that argument and see just what can be consolidated or what is not necessary. The coroner's office at this time is not automated. Several counties around us and in other states are using tablets and much more sophisticated processes to bring the information to the tabletop. I want to do that because I think that the information should be accessible to the community, and it's not just accessible, but it should be pushed out to the community. Because, what does obesity do? Long-term obesity do to the body that causes you to end up on the coroner's table?
Yeah.
What's too much fried chicken? That kind of information needs to be. The coroner's representatives can go out and teach what the dead are saying to the living. So I think that's the one thing that we need to look for, because that's the place where we learn what happens as far as physiology is concerned.
Okay. All right. So that's a great, thank you for giving that in-depth answer to that question, because again, in a lot of cases, we end up talking in terms of like jargon where people don't understand, but I think it's important that people understand that there is a basis of knowledge that goes with this role. A lot of people don't understand the power of the coroner as well. Can you speak a little bit to the power that the coroner wields in that county?
Well, it's most evident probably in determining what the manner of death was, because in an accidental death, if you call that an undetermined or whatever else, the family insurance may not pay.
Right.
There may not be the ability to sue for a negligence on the part of the company that may have killed the person. Well, they didn't kill them, but they got hurt on the job. One of the areas that's most I guess critical is suicide.
Yeah.
Because many insurance companies have clauses that say they don't pay in suicide. And so if you take a person, I don't know, but there's something called autoeroticism. These are the people that choke themselves or they want to asphyxiate themselves sexually to enhance section, and their devices sometimes fail and they die. So in saying that, looks like a suicide because he hung himself, but in reality, he didn't intend it, or he or she didn't intend to kill themselves. They were doing something that was sexual. And the bottom line is, if you call that a suicide, that family may not have any way of getting an insurance policy paid. So the coroner's office is extremely important in making the determination and making it correctly.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. The question I actually was trying to go to is the only person that can arrest the sheriff of a county is who?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
see, that's the one I was trying to lead you there.
Yeah. Well, I think I'd have to work on that one.
Yeah, like the only person that can arrest the sheriff is the coroner. That's the only, y'all may not know that. That's what I actually helped somebody run for coroner, Dorchester County coroner a few years ago. And that's when I learned that. So I was really intrigued by that fact.
Everybody says that, but it is the truth. That is the one person who can arrest the sheriff. He's kind of big, so I better bring some other coroners with me.
Good stuff. I want to make sure that you have an opportunity to say, are there any thoughts that you had that you wanted to make sure that you shared, or any specific points you want to make sure that you got to? Because I don't want to wrap without getting there.
Okay, I think what's most important to me is the office is not diversified. The office does not represent this community at all. And if you're an investigative unit in this community, how are you going to be investigating? And if you don't speak Spanish, how are you going to go and investigate in a Spanish community? They're not going to trust you in African American and even in a white community. So the office needs to represent the Charleston population. We have built a very elaborate office that is costing us a considerable amount of money, but we're not using that office to the extent. There's two, we call them in the funeral business, we call them post tables, but they're postmortem tables. Now, we're only using one. Half of our autopsies are being done at MUSC for $5,500 a pop. So maybe we need to do some RFPs and see if we can't bring that price down. We're spending $60,000 a year on printing for the office. I'm not sure what we're printing. There aren't any veterans in that office. There aren't any veterans employed, especially not in the death investigator position, which is 5, and it's 5 females. that are in those jobs. The office is less than 10% male, no veterans, 13% people of color. 3 of Charleston's 6 geographical areas are represented in the people in the office. There's 6 areas in Charleston, 6 different areas in Charleston that we could use. I want to impress, or at least impress upon the sheriff, the fire department, the EMS, and everyone else, that I would have a much better working relationship with them and the police departments, because I'm going to seek them out. As a matter of fact, I've already talked to a couple of the police chiefs and sheriff about coming and sitting down and finding out what they want, so that we are part of the process and not authoritatively managing the process.
Okay. And if they want to find out more information about you, your campaign, where can they find you? Where can they reach you?
HerbertFielding.com, and my telephone number is on the webpage. So if you want to talk, we can talk.
So www, let's do HerbertFielding.com. If you want more information, please go to www.herbertfielding.com. Thank you so much, Mr. Fielding. And I do know that you're actually going to be on with Troy McLean, Lady T, at 8 p.m., correct?
Yes.
So if they want to check, so make sure if you want to get more information, there's more information that you want, please check them out. Lady T, I love them. I appreciate them. I respect them. So please check them out. Thank you so much for joining me, sir. I really appreciate your time, your energy, and I wish you well in the campaign. Quite
proud of you, though. I mean, I appreciate the fact that the young people are becoming politically involved.
Praise God.
This is good. All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. All right. And that was Mr. Herbert Fielding. Thank you so much to him for joining us tonight. Again, these candidates, they want to make their voices heard. They want you to hear them. They want to speak to you. That means that your voice is important. If your voice was not important, they would not be taking the time out of their day to speak to you. So I want to thank Mr. Herbert Fielding and every single candidate, regardless of party affiliation, regardless of the background. I don't care. All I care about is making sure that we have an opportunity to hear from these candidates who are taking the time to speak to us. The next person that I'm going to bring on is a friend of mine. I got to be honest. I will never lie to you and make it seem like I don't know people that I don't know. Ben Pogue is somebody who's a friend of mine. And if you've heard his commercial, you know I support him. But I'm not against anybody. It's just, it is what that is. And I'm going to leave that there and bring on Mr. Ben Pogue. Thank you so much for joining me, sir.
Thank you for having me, ReZsaun. I appreciate that. And yeah, we're friends. What can we do about it? I really appreciate you having this show, having this forum for so many candidates from both parties. I think that that's really important. And like you said, it's really about bringing the issues to the people, and just the mere fact that we've got so many contested races where there are people from different parties with different perspectives, that puts the power in the hands of the people to really make their choice matter.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us. And we've done a longer episode before, but I'm glad that you decided just to come back again, just to make sure that the people know that you're here and what you're all about. So please introduce yourself to the audience for those who may not know you.
Sure. I'm Ben Pogue. If you've been around in the Charleston area for a long while, you might remember long ago when I had more hair. I used to be the morning meteorologist over on Channel 2. I was in that career so that I could help protect people when there were threats to life, limb, and property. But I got out of that after Hurricane Katrina, became an attorney. I'm a trial attorney. I've been one since 2009. That's when I graduated from the Charleston School of Law. This campaign is really about the same kind of things that my entire career has been about. It's really about keeping people safe. In addition to my career as a trial attorney, I'm also somebody who's experienced violent crime. And the solicitor's job, just like district attorney everywhere else, is to do justice, and in doing so, prosecute serious crimes, felonies. So one of that folks who have experienced crime or who are survivors who have lost a loved one to crime think about is in the wake of those incidents is, how do we make sure that this doesn't happen to somebody else? And one of the ways we do that is to have a justice system that really focuses on reducing crime. And unfortunately, ReZsaun, we've got one that it's not what we want. It's not a justice system that reflects the diversity of our communities or the values of our communities. And it's sort of self-perpetuating. It's interesting that Kristin and Herbert were talking about some of the issues that we've got this system that just keeps ballooning in its budgets, but doesn't really reduce crime, reduce harm, reduce violence, which is what we need. And I've got the skills as not just a trial lawyer, but also a mediator who brings people together. That's what we need to build trust. That's actually the way we reduce crime, is building trusting relationships and building a justice system that we can trust. And that's why I'm running, because I'm the person for the job.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that. Like I said with Mr. Fielding, I think it's very important that we take this time to educate the viewers as well about the specific roles that we are talking about in these elections. So could you please talk about the role of the solicitor in the state of South Carolina?
Yeah, as I mentioned, it's district attorney everywhere else. And one of the things that I'd love to see change in the coming years is the name of our office. Solicitor is the old English term for an attorney, but a lot of people hear that and they don't even understand what it is. And it doesn't help that we have not had a contested election, general election for solicitor since the year 2000. So if you're 38 years old or younger, you've never voted in a general election for Ninth Circuit solicitor, which is for all of Charleston County, all of Berkeley County. So that's the first problem, is people don't even know what it is. Another issue in making sure that we prosecute serious crimes. That's what a district attorney does. That's what a solicitor does. Some places it's also called prosecutor, or state's prosecutor, Commonwealth prosecutor, something like that. The key element of doing that and making sure that justice is effective at reducing crime and reducing violence is to have the trust of the people, so that when there's a crime in their neighborhood, when violence happens, first of all, they report it to a system that they can trust will deliver accurate results, and accurate results that really reflect their values. So not punishing too hard, not punishing too soft, just right, and from a system that they know is not compromised by conflicts of interest. That's one of the reasons it's really important to have somebody in the current situation where mistrust is the biggest problem we have in our justice system, who comes from outside of the typical criminal attorney experience, and where the people know that they've got a practice to go to when they're done serving, and I'm only going to serve a maximum of 2 terms, that doesn't depend on the relationships and the favors that typically get made in the criminal justice process. ReZsaun, when we see somebody get off on probation who's had dozens of guns and running a crime ring and all that, running a drug ring and all this kind of stuff, and that person gets 5 years probation, they had a chance to get a government job while they were on probation with felonies pending. They had a chance to go back to college with felonies pending. They only get probation. People look at that and they go, what was the connections? That person had to have some kind of connection. There were some favors there, right? It doesn't reflect reality. So we need somebody who comes in from the outside, who can build that trust, reinforce that justice should be for everyone, have nothing to do with what favors are owed or what your color of your skin is, what your socioeconomic or cultural background is. We just got to have justice for all that we can trust. And that's how we do it.
Absolutely. And thank you for sharing that again as well. Let's talk about the role of the solicitor, more concretely, in terms of, what is currently in place that you think Ben Pogue brings differently to the table that is not currently there?
Yeah, we're just running the same old mass incarceration playbook, which is great for putting a whole lot of people in prison for a long period of time, warehousing individuals, regardless of the ramification of that. That's what the prosecution model is. If that's the only tool that you've got in the toolbox, putting somebody in prison, or if it's just the tool that you use 90% of the time, it's not really an effective one. We were talking about this last night on our Restorative Justice Forum series about the effects of putting somebody in prison. The job of the solicitor, like prosecutors and district attorneys, is not to put people in prison. It's to do justice. But you can't do justice in the community without understanding the effect of that on the community. So, for instance, 50% of the people who we're putting in prison are parents. They're parents of young kids. One of the biggest, most detrimental factors in the development of a youth, and you know this as somebody who's big in the mentoring community, is whether they've had a parent incarcerated. Now let's combine that with the fact from a Department of Justice study that 39% of the people who we have in prison, there's not really a public health rationale for keeping them there. They're not a threat to the life and limb of other people. So for 39% of these people, half of whom are parents of young kids, we're putting them in there. We're creating children, innocent children, who grow up with this extremely detrimental factor, this burden hanging over their head, which is much more prevalent for poor people and people of color. And we saddle them with this burden that then pushes them much more, or at least makes it much more likely that they go into a life of crime, get set up with the wrong peer group, have bad educational experiences, bad housing experiences, you name it. So in that effect, we're perpetuating crime. The job of the solicitor is really to reduce crime. That's what we want to do. We want to do it practically, first of all, by having a solicitor's office that reflects the life experience and diversity of our community. We don't have that now. We have 40 attorneys, about 32 in Charleston, 8 in Berkeley County. We only have one African-American attorney on staff. We don't have any natural Spanish-speaking or even learned Spanish-speaking attorneys on the entire staff either. So we really need to focus on those ways where we can show the public that when you do come to the justice system to prevent harm, to cure harm, to fix things, we've got a staff, not just of administrative staff, but a staff of decision makers, the big people, the attorneys involved, that reflects your values and understands where you are coming from and understands that we need to do our part to understand the impact, even the detrimental impact of our system on communities. Try and minimize that, minimize crime along with it.
Wow. Thank you for saying that. Thank you for saying that. I know one thing that you are very passionate about is restorative justice. Can you speak to the restorative justice piece, the things that you've been working on to try to make that happen?
Yeah, it's restorative justice in a real nutshell approach is about a couple of things. First of all, it's about prioritizing healing victims. And the main area we need to work on this in is domestic and intimate partner violence. We are either top 10 or worse, I guess a bottom 10 or worse in every metric for domestic violence. And that it just has not changed. We're moving in inches when we need to move miles. A big part of that is creating a culture, certainly within the solicitor's office, where we believe victims right off the bat, where we do advocacy right off the bat, where we make sure that it's not just something we add to the list of crimes we prosecute, but that we're actually going out there. We're at the Hope Walk with Butch Kennedy. We're out there, in Columbia, when there are hearings saying domestic violence is really what we need to concentrate on. But that all boils down into the major way we need to prioritize victim experiences. And that's job number one for restorative justice. Not thinking put people in prison, instead thinking heal the harm of violence and crime to individuals, especially victims, but also communities. The other part of restorative justice is community engagement. And this is something that Herbert talked about, something that Kristin Graziano talked about. It's like the missing link, but it's not some little tiny facet of our system that's missing. It's the biggest part.
It's the biggest piece, yes.
It's the biggest part. Community is what we should be about. It's why having these regular elections are so important for coroner, for sheriff, for solicitor. If you don't have the community even be part of the voting process to determine who that person is, you're not engaging the community at all. So community engagement means first having these conversations on a regular basis. For us, part of our racial equity initiative is having every one of our 40 deputy solicitors in community meetings at least 4 times a year. That's every 3 months, going to a community meeting, not telling people what we're doing for them, but listening to how we can work with people. That old saying, and you and I have talked about this, what you do for me without me, you do to me. So restorative justice is really about with me. So it starts with community engagement and those conversations, which we've been having, our restorative justice forums, where we invite people in on a Facebook Live audience, but also on Zoom audiences, creating safe spaces, having discussions about all the different kinds of things that justice is involved with, whether it's like we were talking about last night, partnerships with public health, understanding why mentoring is so important, understanding how to use public health data, understanding the adverse childhood experiences, how they affect crime later on, all those kinds of things, inviting the community in. But it's also, as we get into the second, third, and fourth year of my upcoming term for solicitor, it's creating restorative justice programs that are diversion programs, non-prison programs for people, for offenders to get into, so that we really hold them accountable. Think about this, ReZsaun. 2/3 of victims want some other option for their offender other than prison. Yeah. We're not giving it to them. It's like we're giving people a menu with one on it, when it's one of the most important things that we do is try and respond to victims and heal the harm that they feel. So we can do a whole lot more of that. It can be expensive, right? I can hear people say that restorative justice is expensive, right? We found a way around that, and it's our community action team, creating partnerships where we will share cost, share resources, and share data, so that we make sure offenders who are brought into the system are not just sitting in a cell getting worse, which is a bad option, but they have a process where they have to face the people who were impacted by that crime, not just the victim's family, their own innocent members of their family who they impact, neighborhoods, entire communities, to help them understand what the impact was of their actions and to give them a path forward. That's what restorative justice is about. When you've got a community action team that's made up of people who are networked in transportation, housing, healthcare, LGBTQ+, our legislative advocate is Crystal Matthews, the formerly incarcerated individual community, then you start building a system that is dependent, a real partnership with the community, dependent on the input of the community. So that an offender on their way to success has transportation resources, has job resources, has educational resources. So we've got a whole system that's sharing costs, sharing responsibility, built on partnerships, and necessarily reflects the community's values. That's how you build trust too.
Wow. Thank you for that. Thank you.
Thank you for that. You know all that because we've talked.
Yeah. Yeah. I do, but I'm so glad that you were able to, speak that to the people and again, make your voice heard. I really appreciate it. We have about 1 minute. I want you to let them know, first of all, your parting shots and where can they find you?
Yeah, you can find us on votebenpogue.com. You can find our community action team because transparency is a big part of what we're doing. We need to have accountability and transparency, and that starts with community engagement. So go to votebenpogue.com. You can see our past restorative justice forums, hear the discussions, whether they're on race and justice, public health, guns, all kinds of things. You can also see us on Facebook, Vote Ben Pogue 2020. You can catch us on Twitter at VoteBenPogue. You can see the people who have endorsed our campaign. We don't ask for a lot of endorsements because we don't want a whole bunch of favors out there. We want to remain independent. That's part of what we're doing too. But we'd love you to get on board and learn more about it. Learn more about the members of our community action team who are working every day to reduce crime and increase justice, not just criminal justice, which should be for everyone. And thank you so much for having me, ReZsaun. I really appreciate you.
Always a pleasure, man. Always a pleasure. Tell Nina I said hello.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're keeping you in our thoughts and prayers every day, man.
Thank you so much, man. You have a great night, okay?
Right, you too.
All right. Ben Pogue. I'm sorry I had to sign up to set up Herbert fielding the entire time. My bad, Ben. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Let me take that down. It's too many. I got too many things I'm doing at one time. But thank you. That was Ben Pogue, the candidate for Charleston. Sorry. District 9, 9th Judicial District Solicitor. 9th Judicial District Solicitor. We're going to keep it rolling. Again, tonight, we're just bringing on the candidates. We're letting them speak. We're taking questions. We're answering questions. And they're speaking to you because your voice matters. Your vote matters. Make sure your voice is heard. I would be remiss if I didn't say, absentee ballot voting is already available. You can go ahead to tomorrow. You can watch tonight, wake up tomorrow morning and say, I'm hitting the polls. There's different locations that you can go to. If you go to www.sevotes.org, you can find all absentee voting locations. And these people that are on these panels tonight, I suggest considering them. They're great. They're great candidates. So next up, we have Earlier, we had Mr. Herbert Fielding, who's running for Charleston County Coroner, and now we have Ms. Bobbi Jo Oneal, who's also running for Charleston County Coroner. So we're going to have a great discussion. Thank you so much for joining me, Ms. Oneal.
Yeah, thank you for having me, ReZsaun. It's great to be here.
It's great to see you. It's great to see you. Please introduce yourself to the audience for those who don't know you.
Sure. Well, my name is Bobbi Jo Oneal, and I am the current Chief Deputy Coroner for the Charleston County Coroner's Office. I have been serving you in this capacity for 20 years. The current coroner, Ray Wooten, has decided to retire, and so I would like to continue serving the community as we have for a very long time. Just a little bit about myself. I'm actually a registered nurse. I was an emergency room nurse at Charleston Memorial Hospital, which was the old county hospital back in the day. And at that time, that's when I really learned to start taking care of victims of trauma and crime and how to document their injuries and what their injuries were caused from. And at that time, I recognized we didn't have a way to take care of sexual assault victims. And so I helped create the sexual assault team for the medical university. And again, we took care of them from a health perspective, making sure they got the health care that they needed. But then we also wanted to make sure that the criminal justice system could work. And if they wanted to prosecute, they could. And so I've been doing forensic nursing for a very long time. But I've been, at that time I met the coroner, and she asked me to come and join the office. And it has been quite a blessing. And I think we've done a great job serving the community. So that's a little bit about myself, John.
All right. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. And I'm glad to hear, that I noticed that you mentioned that you already work in the coroner's office. Can you speak to what about your role in the coroner's office better prepares you for that office?
Yeah, well, the coroner's office is really specialty office. I mean, that's why there are state qualifications to run, that this is a specialty. Forensic science has changed a lot in the past 10 to 15 years, where it used to be that you could just run for the office and not have any qualifications, and that's really not the case anymore. It does require a medical background and an understanding on how to investigate deaths, just because the reason is we speak for the person who died. We are their voice. We work aside law enforcement, but independently. And we don't always agree with law enforcement. I mean, they may think something is a suicide and we say it's a homicide. And the ruling of the coroner stands. And that's why the coroner's got to be somebody who knows how to investigate, can make final decisions. They can't relinquish that right to someone else. The coroner is a state constitutional office. The Constitution dictates what the coroner does, and that's the investigative aspect. And then there's a second aspect to the coroner's office, and that's the administration and management, which I've been a part of, again, for many, many years, whether that's mentoring the employees and our investigators and support staff, managing the facilities, and also the budget that I know Mr. Fielding talked about a few minutes ago. He is right. We should save the money. And that's why I've been writing grants for the coroner's office for about 10 years. And I brought in just under $1 million that Charleston County taxpayers did not have to put the bill for. We got that from other agencies to improve our services. Let me just let everybody know how great of a coroner's office you have in Charleston County. We are one of 26 that are nationally accredited in the country. We are far past national standards. We have not only a local voice, a state voice, and a national voice. And there are only 266 board certified medical legal death investigators in the country. 7 of them are in the state of South Carolina and 5 of them in their Charleston County Coroner's Office. This office is highly specialized. This is not a place for a newbie. You have got to know what you're doing in this office. Let me talk about our numbers, because I heard that on the last interview. We had 4,000 death investigations last year, not 482, 4,000. That's huge. That means we had about 500 that were autopsied that we used a forensic pathologist, but 3,500 of those, the coroner or their designee had to make a decision on. That's why this is huge, that you've got to have somebody that knows how to do that. The cost of an autopsy at the medical university and at our autopsy suite we built in our office is $1,200. It is not $5,500. And for anyone to say that their budget is too high does not understand first responders. There is no first responder agency, law enforcement, fire department, EMS, coroner's office that is overstaffed, especially during a pandemic. This office has been doing a fantastic job. The county should be proud of the services that we've provided. To give in just a couple more things. I can keep talking, ReZsaun.
No, you good. No, you trust
You
me.
can ask
Hey,
me questions.
this is Real Talk with ReZsaun. We talk here. We talk
Let me
here.
tell you.
You good. Cook.
I've been serving in this community. I served during the Charleston Sofa Superstore fire. I took care of 12 firemen who were lost in this county, them and their families. I was there when we had the killing of Mr. Scott. It was the coroner's office who spoke for him. It was the coroner's office who met with his family and met with his attorneys. And I was there on the night of the mother of Manuel, going back and forth between the church and the hotel, taking care of those families. This is not a political position for me. If I were interested in politics, I would have run for an office 20 years ago. I've been serving this community, and I hope to continue doing that. The community deserves that. The person who died deserves someone who can speak for them. Their families deserve someone who's going to stand up for them and care for them. And the community deserves to have that sort of service. I do want to address one other thing that came up, is that we're not in the community, not serving, which is actually not true. We've been doing preventative work for 20 years. I'm a nurse. That's what nurses do. We do holistic care. We're very involved with North Charleston and Chief Burgess in a program called A Baby Changes Everything, where we bring in information about what we see as risk factors for children who die. For those who don't know, I helped write the training material for the CDC, and I actually have a book called Investigating Infant Deaths. I'm a national subject matter expert on the topic. We also work with we do the opioid. I mean, I'll keep talking.
Talk that talk. Hey, I'm sorry. I like when people talk that talk. I love it. I'm sorry.
Let's just go.
Other shows may not want you to brag on yourself.
No,
I love it. I love it.
Charleston County deserves it. Charleston County and the residents deserve good quality care. And for my opponent to say that because I look different than you do or he does, that I can't enter your community and I can't talk to you and develop a relationship with you and interview you and have compassion is insulting. I've been in every community in this county taking care of families of all colors, of all races, of all creeds, and all languages that they speak. And we do have a method to take care of that. And so that's insulting. It's insulting to the office. It's insulting to all first responders. And so what I can say to your viewers and your listeners is I'm going to continue to take care of them. I've been doing it for a long time. Nothing's changed. I'm glad to answer any questions.
Yeah,
I'm freely available. Obviously, I can talk.
No, I love it. I love it. No, and I want to thank you for being
you want to know, ask me.
I want to thank you for being so frank. I think it's important, especially in this time, it's important that we know, who's on the ballot. That's important. So thank you for putting your resume on Front Street for those who may not have heard it. So thank you so much. I wanted to ask you about being a woman in this role. What is unique to you as a woman? First of all, have we had a female coroner in Charleston County?
Well, the coroner has been female for many, many, many years. So Ray Wooten, she's a lady. She has been the coroner.
I didn't know that.
Yes. Also a nurse. And prior to her was Susan Tuning. She was also a nurse. I think we bring a very interesting skill set. Let me talk a little bit about our investigative staff. I think we get a lot of sort of slams, if you will, about what our staff entails. We actually have quite a mix. We have African Americans, we have Hispanics, we have LGBT, we have all jurisdictions. But let me talk about the women issue just for a moment. What I've learned over many, many years is that women actually make very good medical legal death investigators. And the reason is because we're not law enforcement. And we need to be able to develop a rapport to sit down and talk to them and ask them about medical history, be able to get social history. And women can do that in a little softer method. That doesn't mean we do it better. We do it a little differently. And so what we've learned is that women sort of have a strength in this area, that we can sit down with a crying mommy and hold their hand, and we're okay doing that. And that's not to say that men can't, but some women just have a softer approach. And when you're dealing with somebody who's just lost someone in whatever circumstance, whether they died in the privacy of their own home, whether they lost a loved one to a drug overdose, whether it's to gun violence, whatever it may be, we've got to do our job and ask a lot of questions because we represent the deceased and make sure we can speak for them but we need to take care of their family and as well. And to be able to talk to them in a soft manner, but get what we need is quite an art. And so I would say that that's probably why we're a little heavy on the female side. But I'll tell you, across the country, we're not unusual because other offices have recognized that as well. So to be a lady in the office, it's been ladies for a long time, but that's really why. I think if you had to say, you know, if I had a loss and someone had to come to my house, who might I want that to be? To sit down with me and talk to me and talk about some personal things as we try to answer questions. I will tell you, I think I'm going to be on with you next week with Mr. Keith Smalls. Mr. Smalls has had some tragic losses in his life, and he and I have interacted. And so the people who have had a loss, they understand the importance of that. What I hope is that, I hope, you know, nobody interacts with the coroner's office. Because if you do, you've had a tragedy. Something's happened in your life, and you have to interact with us. And what we want to try to do is make sure we speak for the person who died, get that cause of death and manner of death correct. That is the role of the coroner, not the forensic pathologist. It is the coroner's role. Speak for them, talk to their family, answer questions for their family, make sure that things are documented correctly. That is what you want. You want somebody who you know is you can trust is going to do a good job. And I've been doing that for 20 years. Wow. And I hope to continue serving. This is a love of mine. I'll share one last thing that I shared with Keith the other day, because he sort of asked me about it. And I know what it's like. I lost my mom to domestic violence when I was 10. I know what it's like to call 911. I know what it's like to have first responders and law enforcement come into my home. I know what it's like to be interviewed by law enforcement. I know what it's like to have anniversary dates. This is personal, not political.
I think that's a mic drop moment. I don't like to take away mic drop moments. So I'm just going to ask them, just if they want to find out more about you, how can they find you? How can they support you?
My name is Bobbi Jo Oneal. You can find me at BobbiJoOneal.com or follow me on Facebook, Bobbi Jo Oneal for Charleston County Coroner. Call the coroner's office and ask for me. I've been there a long time, but I am glad to answer any question. If you are hearing information about the coroner's office and you're not sure it's right, please call and ask me. I will give you a truthful answer. And I appreciate your time, ReZsaun. And I'll talk to you next week.
Yes, I will talk to you next week. We will be on with Keith Smalls next Wednesday night. So I look forward to speaking with you then, and I'll have some more questions for you then. But thank you so much for your time. Thank you, and I wish you all the best in your campaign.
Thank you so much, ReZsaun. I appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am. All right. That was Miss Bobbi Jo Oneal. She's running for Charleston County Coroner. Brandon, I saw your question, but I was already rapping, so I didn't want to break back in to ask that question. But I will get that question in when we do our follow-up next week. So thank you so much for that. And Miss Bobbi Jo, I see you're still in there. If you look in the comment section, there's a question from from Brandon Upson. If you want to reach out to him, that may be a good opportunity about the diversity of the diversity of the office. But I want to keep it rolling. These candidates, like I said, there's things that you will not hear on Real Talk ReZsaun. You will not hear terms like liberal, conservative. I don't care if you're Republican. I don't care if you're Democrat. The only thing I care about is that you have a platform and that you have something to say and that you want to speak to the people. And the people who reached out to me about coming on this show to do that fit all those boxes. Every candidate I've spoken to tonight, I've had a great opportunity to learn more about and learn from. And next up, we have Mr. Ralph Prioleau, who is running for the Berkeley County School District, I believe, district number 7. So I want to bring him on. Thank you so much, Mr. Prioleau. How you doing, sir? Let me change this banner. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing good, sir. How you doing?
I am great. I want to thank you so much for joining me. There's some noise in the background. Is that you?
I want to think it's a clock.
Oh, okay. I was like, what is that?
Yeah.
Is it about to go off or?
Yeah, it's about to go. It's about to go off.
All right, cool. It's all right.
Yeah.
I want to thank you so much for joining us, Berkeley County School District, Mr. Ralph Prioleau. That's an interesting clock. Yo, can we give it up for the clock real quick? Let's just take some time to appreciate the clock.
Oh,
all right, there we go.
See, we finally got
all
it.
Right. Please introduce yourself to the audience.
Well, first and foremost, I would like to thank you for providing the platform that you have provided for all of these candidates. I've been listening, and it's been real great the way that they are able to express themselves. My name is Ralph Prioleau. I'm born and raised in St. Stephen, South Carolina. That's right up the road from 18 miles from Mounts Corner. I'm a Berkeley County grown product. Graduated out of Timberland High School 2009. Graduated from USC Aiken in 2013 with a BA in political science. And then I came back home and went to law school and graduated from Charleston School of Law in December 2017. It's currently, I am the law clerk for the Honorable Cynthia Graham Howe, who's the Horry County Master in Equity. So I make that drive every day from St. Stephen to Conway, pretty much every day. And I am a candidate for Berkeley County School District number 7, which stretches from the St. Stephen area, Elvin, all the way to Cross. You have Bono, Pringletown, Long Ridge, some of Jedburgh, Pontopolis, and most important, we don't want to forget the K&B community as well. A very diverse district.
All right. So first of all, you got to know that my first teaching job was at St. Stephen Elementary School. So I'm a fan already. Shout out to Miss Graham, Dr. Graham, and the whole team out there at St. Stephen Elementary. I still love y'all, Rams. I still love y'all. All right. So thank you for sharing that. So let's talk about, you said you're a lawyer. You work in you've done, first of all, hold on. So how old are you, by the way? Sorry for asking.
Well, I'm 29. I'm a law clerk. I wanted to let that be known. I'm a law clerk. I work for the judge. Yeah.
Yes,
so
that's dope though. But
29. And I want to I have a wife, Michelle Prioleau, and then I also have 3 stepkids, but I don't call them stepkids. They're children. Because they're my investment, and they are in the Berkeley County school system in District 7. I have one at JK, one at St. Stephen Middle, and one at Timberland High School. So we have an investment in there.
Absolutely. So why run for Berkeley County School District?
Well, that's a very good question. The first thing that I thought about was, we are a type of people that like to we complain about a lot of things. We complain about, buses. We complain about potholes, and I think we need to get out the mindset of complaining, and we need to start getting into the mindset of doing. So one thing that I decided to say that instead of complaining, I didn't like the way things were being done. I didn't like the way our representation was in District 7, because our district historically has always been held by a minority. It's always Ms. Wilhelmina Moore, Representative Joseph Jefferson held that seat, Dr. Barnes, Reverend Kelly Spann. So what I think is we need to get back to having a representative that knows the odds are against him or her. We never had the majority, but we always had what I consider bulldogs who fought for the rural area schools, who fought for the rural area communities. And I think we need a representative that can get back to that. And I believe I am that person.
All right, cool. So what do you see that is currently lacking in the school board that you could bring to the table?
Well, number one, and this is a very well-known topic. I think I've been preaching this since I started my campaign. And I think my campaign slogan is bridging the gap. Bridging the gap between teachers and school board, bridging the gap between community and school board, because there is a lack of trust there. There's a lack of trust. There's a lack of transparency. I believe that as far as our teachers are concerned, we know what they are fighting for. They're fighting for pay raises. We know that what the state has already said. So I think as a school board, we need to try and alleviate those things. I would like to see loyalty bonuses. So what I think I bring to the table is the fact that I bring a much more balanced approach, because District 7 is very diverse. In my area, we're fighting to keep schools open. Like prime example, J.K. Gannon Elementary only has 100 students. There's a possibility of closure. But then you have a community such as the Cane Bay community, which is stretched and is grown exponentially to where they are overcrowded. So they are fighting overcrowding issues. My community is fighting trying to keep a school that I consider a community hub. So what I think I bring to the table is a much more balanced approach where we can bring all sides together, find a solution that is reasonable and feasible for all sides. I don't think we don't have that representation now, but my goal is to have that type of representation to go back to the Wilhelmina Moores, go back to the Joe Jefferson, the Julius Bond, where we can sit down and work to give our children the best education possible.
Okay, so what are the key tenets of your platform as a candidate for this office?
I have 5 of them. My first one is I want to address bus overcrowding. Now, when I say that, we know that bus overcrowding right now is probably not an issue because a lot of our students are not back in school fully. I think Burke County is really operating at 50%. It's like 15,000 home, 15,000 in school, like maybe 600 or 700 who are straight virtual. So when I think about that the bus overcrowding, we need to form a plan to employ and retain more drivers. I would like to see pay increases. I would at least to $18 an hour. I would like to see loyalty bonuses given to those drivers that stay for many years, 5 years, 10 years, whatever, etc. I want to see. My second thing I want to see is the Cane Bay community. I would like to see a plan form to address what is going on in Cane Bay as far as the exponential growth. Is there a plan in place to build more schools? Because I think that is an issue that we might have to build more schools in Cane Bay, because the prime example, the Cane Bay Middle School can only house 900 students, but they have 1,400 students in the school right now. So we're going to have to sit down with that community, because it isn't fair for a child who lives in Cane Bay to come out of Cane Bay to go to a school, and then we are bringing students out of the Cane Bay community and going to a Cane Bay school. So that's another issue we have to address. I discussed JK. I want to see the enrollment increase at JK, changing the curriculum, maybe change the curriculum to a STEM or STEAM program to try to attract more students in that community to stay, because right now JK is losing but 35 or 40 students going to St. Stephen Elementary, Bonner, so we need to work on the curriculum there as well. And my 4th and my 5th can be probably combined, and that's increasing the learning opportunities in the rural schools. I'm talking about equitable funding. We realize that Cross High School, Timberland High School, Cane Bay, there's a difference in what they have. Cane Bay might have pre-finance programs, and we know that Cross and Timberland doesn't have this amount of students. So we need to create some equitable funding, and then we also need to work within the system to find ways to try and bring new programs to rural area schools, such as welding. Timberland has a welding program. Cross has a welding program, but Cross doesn't have a teacher. So, we need to address those issues. And then vocational training. When my father went to school, you had things, brick mason and carpentry, and, probably when your parents went to school, it was the same thing. Those are lost in the schools now. And we need to realize that not all students will go to college. But that doesn't mean that there are not other avenues to success. So I think what we need to do, we need to really sit down and bring back vocational training to the local high schools. Partnership with Trident Tech. Trident Tech has over 70 free tuition-free programs right now. That is something that our students especially the Black students, need to take advantage of. You know a lot of us don't have the money to go to college. Well, this is an avenue right here, free, and everybody loves the word free. So we have. I think we just have to take advantage of what is there, and work within the system. I think there's many programs that we are not taking advantage of. Partnership with Boeing, partnership with with local corporations, and Volvo. And I think we can do a much better job.
Awesome. I want to thank you. Like, we're starting to wrap up. We got like 4 minutes left. I want you to give your parting shots and let them know how can they find you, where can they get more information about you, or if they want to contact you, how can they do that?
Well, first and foremost, I'm an open book. If anybody want to contact me, my number is 843-830-3713. Again, 843-830-3713. My email address is rprioleau_98@yahoo.com. And I can be found on Facebook, either under Ralph Prioleau, under my campaign page, Ralph Prioleau for Berkeley County School District number 7. That's my campaign page. I'm open book, and I first and foremost, again, thank you for the platform that you presented tonight. And I want to say to the voters, stay informed. I think that's the best thing that I can say at this point is, if an informed voter can make an informed decision. If you are struggling with a candidate, if you are struggling to find things about a candidate, that's probably not your best option. I think we need to learn that, and ReZsaun, I think you can say this, I think we need to learn to stop voting for our cousin. We voting for our sister and our brother, but then at the end of the day, we go back on the Sunday night kitchen table, and then we say, oh, they ain't done nothing the last 4 years. But then but look what you voted for the last 4 years. So I use this equation very all the time. Nothing plus nothing equals nothing.
Yes, sir.
So you can't, if a person didn't give you a plan, then on top of that didn't do anything for the last 4 years. So what did you just did? You got nothing. So I think we need to make sure we have an informed voter, make informed decisions. My platform is out there. Now, unlike my opponents, they haven't put their platform out there. They basically saying they just want to run. Well, that's fine. If you want to run, that's fine. But at the end of the day, be an informed voter. Make informed decisions. And I think we'll be successful in our election for Berkeley County School District number 7.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, thank you so much for joining me, man. I appreciate it. I wish you all the best in the campaign. I don't know your opponent, but if I was watching, I'd be trying to run to a camera to talk to somebody about something. That's all I'll say about that.
Don't bet on it now. Don't look for it.
That's all I'm gonna say about that. But thank you so much for joining me, man. I really appreciate it. And let's get together and get coffee one day, because I feel like me and you have more commonalities than we realize.
Thank you, sir.
I wish you the best, and thank you so much for joining us, man. I appreciate it. Ralph Prioleau, candidate, Berkeley County District 7. District 7. Thank you, sir. All right. Listen, what I tell you? Didn't I tell you that tonight I was bringing the guests, was gonna ask the questions, that was gonna talk that talk here on Real Talk with ReZsaun. I'm a very clean person, if you will, but I'm hyped, and I let people talk that talk. We had Bobbi Joe talking that talk. Bobbi Joe talked that talk. All right, we had Mr. Prioleau talk that talk. All right, Ben Pogue talked that talk. Herbert Fielding talked that talk. Now we got Elvin Speights coming on to talk that talk. This gentleman is somebody I know pretty well, man. I've known Elvin almost 10 years now, man. And that's my guy. I gotta say that's my guy. And I don't mind admitting it. Let me bring him on. He's running for Charleston County Constituent School Board District 10, I believe, correct?
Yes, sir. It was good.
All right. What's up, bro? How's it going?
It was good. I'm good, man. I'm good. Listen, I'm privileged. I'm an honored to get to be on Real Talk with ReZsaun, Bubba. I remember when this was just a dream we had in the inbox. You was talking about starting.
I'm saying. I remember shooting the first episode was us on the couch. So like it's good, man. I appreciate you coming on, man. Please introduce yourself to the audience.
So I'm Elvin Speights, man. I'm a local activist, grassroots. A lot of people already probably know me. You know, I'm out here in the trenches with it, for the community, stand up for the children, teacher advocate, public school advocate, and you know, I'm running for the constituent board. And let me tell you a story why. You know, at first I was going to run for the Consolidated School Board, but the Consolidated School Board, you know, that's a general whole, and they handle everything. They handle a whole bunch of everything that goes on in CCSD. They handle. Where the Constituent Board is more focused on direct schools in their area, and that's more also direct with the kids. That's where I want to be. Two things about the Constituent Board that I like. One, they handle the transfers of kids, you know, going different schools. But the biggest thing that caught my attention with the Constituent Board, they deal with the suspension and expulsion rate of these schools. So if a child is going to be expelled or placed into a alternative school program, he has to go in front of his Constituent Board first. Well, those are the kids that I'm interested in getting and talking to and mentoring with. A lot of people don't know, I coach and I mentor through coaching. I was the coach last year at West Ashley Middle School. I've been sharing the stories of how we've been. I've had some of my kids who I've coached who are very successful now. They've got on and told the stories of how, you know, things we've done. They were kids, mentoring them, and they're successful. They're great. So I use sports as a tool. That's, you know, what I do is I get sports and we get down and we get to that platform. And then once I got them interested in listening to what I'm saying, then we go to, you know, at the same time, that's a pretty good jump shot. You know, you need to do better in school. You know, hey, learn that crossover. You know, we can't be getting in fights. And a lot of times they don't even realize they're learning. I tell you what we did last year, how we did last year is this. I had 12 boys and we didn't pick the team based off of talent, the best to win. And you know, ReZsaun, we coached together. You know how I am about winning.
Yeah.
Right? You know how I am about winning. I'm telling you now, last year we might have won 3 games. Didn't care about winning. What my program was based on was I want to get kids who I want to see how the program will work. What we cared more about, we had tutoring 3 days a week before practice. The tutoring, that we had a teacher who was also a coach, and he was also the tutoring teacher. So the kids couldn't come to me and say, well, Elvin, I didn't have no work, because the teacher worked at the school. He was also a tutoring coach, and all your teachers reported to him and let him know what you missed, how your day was, whatever the case was. And that was done before practice. And if it wasn't done by the time practice started, that kid couldn't play. I wish I had a copy, ReZsaun, to show you the report cards, the grade turnarounds. I had kids that had failed the year before that are in high school now. I had kids that was on the gang, in gangs, drop out of gangs. I had kids that were on their way out, going in front of the board, finish the school year with no problems.
Wow. Wow. I want to thank you for just jumping and diving in right there. The why is so important. No, the why is so important. They got to understand this. They got to understand that, you know, when you run for.
You froze, oh man. I think you froze up. We still live, ReZsaun? Still there? Okay.
Office is like. All right, you can hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you back. All
I'm
right,
sorry about that. I apologize.
No problem.
Yeah, you were talking about, you know, the running for constituent school board. Can you talk a little bit more about what you plan on doing as a constituent school board member?
All right, so I still have the mentor program, right? So again, my biggest thing I want to do is when I get kids that come in front of this board and we're trying to decide what's the best action we can do for this kid. Does this kid need to be put out? Does this kid need to turn a program? I want to be able to say, hey, let me get this kid. Before we put him out, before we do this, let me see if I can work with this kid. Let's find out. What I have learned, man, 90% of children, I say 90 to 95% of children have issues at home that alter their attitude in school. If you deal with the issues they're dealing with at home, then the attitude in school will change a lot of the time, you know. And I'm proud to say, like I said, my track record, man, I've been sharing the stories on my Facebook page the kids have been coming on. I got kids, who are in the military, and the great thing about it, I'm talking kids from, and we did it in North Charleston, starting kids from the Whaling, kids from Ackleby, kids from Ferndale, Russ, some of the worst neighborhoods, but these kids are successful. All stories, and that's what we need, and that's what these children need to see.
Yeah, I definitely can agree. I definitely can agree there that there needs to be more. So I want for those who don't know how the Constituent School Board differs. Can you speak to how like the how the discipline runs through the Constituent School Board? Okay, so a child only goes in front of the Constituent Board when it's time for that child to be put out of school. When that option is, when all options in the school has been exonerated, the ISSs, the OSSs, and they go in front of the board, and the board's job at that time is to decide, well, are we going to put this child in an alternative school, or is this child just too far gone and we're just going to have to expel? So, that's what the Constituent Board decides. Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's the Constituent Board. And like I said, me being on the board, that allows me to get face-to-face. I was able to help 15 kids at West Ashley Middle School because I was there. Think of how many more kids I could have helped if I had known about them. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I've been doing this. I mean, you've seen it. I've got people on my Facebook all day writing stories. I'm helping people all the time. And I agree with the brother before me said, I'm always available. You know that. My Facebook, my phone number is on my Facebook page. I got it linked to the hip. So if anybody hit me up, people hit me up all the time, every day. I'm always available, always willing to help. So I want to ask you this. What will change with Elvin Speights on the school board that will not change if you're not on the school board? So I think what I bring to the school board that is the mentoring program. Is the mentoring instead of, because, and I'm not saying that the other constituents at the time didn't care. Everybody has their own slate, but, I'm still going to be coaching. I work with a bunch of coaches, ReZsaun, and I know mentors like yourself, Sam. I know great mentors. So even if I can't, personally mentor this kid before we say, no, he's going to alternative, I'm going to try him out for Distinguished Gentleman Cup. I'm going to try him out for Boys with a Purpose. We're gonna do these things before we just say, hey, this kid can't be reached. And that's what it takes a village. I got a whole team of people who are willing to work. A lot of kids with dealing with financial hardship. I got programs set with people right now where kids are, hey, if this kid can turn around, I'll give him a job. Just send him my way. I love it. And that's what we need. We need people who don't give up on the kids, man. We can't give up on these kids. These kids have hope. These kids have dreams, and we need people in the office who can do that. I want you to take. We have 5 more minutes. I want you to take time. Make that final call. Let the people know why should they support you, and where can they find you. All right. So I'm simple. I don't have all the fancy stuff like everybody else. I'm on Facebook. I don't have the Snapchat and what is the Instagram, and I have a Twitter that I barely even know how to work. I might got 6 tweets. I'm not sure. I don't know how to work it. Can't follow. I'm old. But but I'm Elvin L. Speights Sr. on Facebook. I have a constituent page, Elvin L. Speights Sr. for Constituent Board District 10. My phone number is listed at 843-330-2432. People hit me up all the time. I think one of my greatest aspects that I have is that I'm friends with everyone. I'm also friends with people on the school board. I don't have a love-hate. I don't hate the superintendent. I don't hate the school board. So even when issues go above where I can handle at the constituent level, I have friends. I can pick up the phone and call Cindy. I can pick up the phone and call Kate. I can pick up the phone and call Ericka Taylor and say, hey, I can pick up the phone and call Kevin and say, hey, guess what? I got a situation. Where can we help? As a matter of fact, I just did that recently today. I'm also friends, and I know a lot of the principals at the schools. So if you call me before it even has to go that way, I can pick up the phone and call. Hey, you got a problem? Okay, well, let's try this. Michelle Simmons, the head of elementary schools in West and CCSD. Joe Singleton, the head of middle schools. I'm friends with all these people. So I have a lot of resources, a lot of connections. So if you come to me with a problem, 9 times out of 10, I can get connected to somebody who can help. Yeah. So I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Thank you so much, bro. You know, I appreciate you. I love you. I respect you. And I wish you all the best in the campaign, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Appreciate you, Bubba. Appreciate it. Hey, anybody asking me questions before I jump off? Did I miss?
No, there were no questions. There were no questions.
Oh, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I appreciate y'all watching.
Hey,
anybody have anything, hit me up.
If you have any questions, make sure you hit Elvin up because he will answer any questions that you have. He's an open book, man. Thank you so much, bro. I appreciate you, man.
Appreciate y'all.
Have a good one. Peace.
Yes, sir.
All right. All right. Moving on. So yeah, that was Elvin Speights. He's running for Charleston County Constituent School Board District 10. I told y'all I was bringing him in. I told y'all I was letting them talk that talk. If they want to get gritty with it, like Bobbi Joe got gritty with her talk, I let them talk that talk. This is what we do. You know, I'm from North Charleston. That's what we do in North Charleston. I don't know about y'all, but I'm from North Charleston. I'll always be from North Charleston. Anyway, let me bring on my next guest. She's another returning guest for Real Talk with ReZsaun. She's a friend of mine. She's actually my cousin, we found out through the show. And I'm really excited to talk to this young lady. She is running for the Consolidated School Board. She goes by the name of Miss Regina Duggins. What up, cuz?
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Good to talk to you again. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. Little tired, little hoarse, but I'm making it.
I feel it.
All day teaching, you know, and then been on another candidate forum. But listen, I know the people want to hear. They want to know.
Absolutely. Again, I want to take the time to say to people, like, it's so, like, I am so, it makes me so happy to see these candidates really making the rounds and making their voices heard. I remember growing up and like I only saw the signs. You only saw the signs out in the road, but you never actually got to find out who these candidates were. So there are times, and I've admitted this, where I've walked into a voting booth and I literally don't know any of the candidates. Mm-hmm. So I'm just like, oh, I saw a sign for this person, so I'm gonna vote for them. And I saw a sign. I don't know if you're a Democrat or Republican. I don't know. I don't know if he wants to kill everybody or he wants to save the birds. I don't know. But the fact that you guys, you guys and gals, I don't want to just say guys because that's dismissive of ladies, and I apologize. Go with
I got you, cuz.
The fact that y'all are taking the time to do this speaks so highly of you and your character. So thank you so much for that. Please, for those who don't know who you are, please introduce yourself to the audience.
Well, my name is Regina Duggins, and I'm originally from Brooklyn, New York. I've been in Charleston, South Carolina for 10 years. My family is from, and my roots come from St. George, South Carolina.
St. George?
Thankful to be back home. That's how I feel. I'm running for the Consolidated School Board, the Peninsula seat downtown. I decided to run because I believe that many children in our school system have been left behind. Knowing that South Carolina educational system is skirting between 41 and 46 in different outlooks as you see it out of 50 states, it's just sad. It's just sad to me. But I know that there are many talented and smart and inspirational students because I deal with them every day. So that's why I tell them all the time that the system is broken. It's not you all. The failing schools that we have here is not you that are failing. It's the system. The social injustices, the racial disparities, and the implicit biases, these are keeping our children held back from becoming the leaders that we would love to see them to become in the 21st century. So a few of the things that I believe that I really want to see happen here is, and why I feel that I'm one of the most qualified candidates for the Peninsula seat, is that I support equity. I support equality and inclusion. I have a strong educational background. Not only am I a reading intervention currently, I'm also a District 20 Constituent School Board member. I have a master's in special education, and I have a doctoral degree in organizational leadership with the emphasis of K through 12. I've worked as an assistant coordinator for Kaleidoscope at Sanders Clyde. I have grassroots organizations, mentoring program. I do a lot of outreach in the community. I have 20 years plus of working with youth. I'm a parent. I've raised 5 children. I have one that's in 11th grade currently. 3 attended Burke High School. one that has severely and profound disabilities, nonverbal. He's 24 years old. I have a graduate that graduated from Voorhees College, who's a Zeta. I mean, it's a range of things that I've done. And I'm the caregiver of my mom, who's 77 years old. But even, like I said, and then I want to let people know that I also have my own personal life where I'm a local poet. I've self-published 3 books now. I mean, so I'm also living my life, but education is my main focal point. And it's one of my strongest attributes.
Wow. Thank you for running that out. I think it's so important, we all want to be humble. Everybody wants to be humble, but election season is not the time to be humble. Election season is the time you got to talk that talk, because I promise you your opponents are out there talking that talk. So thank you for laying out that resume and letting them know who you are and what you're about. Let's talk about what got you into education in the first place. What sparked that flame for you?
It was a teacher when I was in public school back in Brooklyn, Coney Island. And then also my oldest brother, my father was killed when I was 3 years old, but my oldest brother told me that he had a 3rd grade education, but he was one of the smartest mans that he ever met. And one of his strongest facts was that he wanted all his children to be educated. And so my brothers was very hard on me and making sure that with me being the youngest, that I got a quality education, and I took education seriously. So I kept feeling like, okay, I need to do what my dad wanted. I didn't know him, but at least I can make him proud while he's up in heaven. So absolutely. Finding a mentor teacher in school, and I was in a mentoring program in 4th grade dealing with childhood traumas. She made me interested in wanting to help the community and also valuing the education, and then always being told that education is something that they can't take from you. So if I've already had the childhood trauma and something was taken from me, education I knew was one thing for sure no one could take from me. So therefore, I started believing that I can be the voice of the voiceless. So therefore, I have become the voice of the voiceless, because I know how it feels to be voiceless, because at the time I was. So therefore, how do I do this? In education. And I really love being a reading interventionist. I take this with 100% pride, because if you can read, you can do anything. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Let's talk about the Charleston County School Board. Let's talk about what's going on there right now. What is Gina Mocha? About to call you by your street name. It's okay. What does Regina Duggins bring to the school board that currently does not exist in that area? I'm bringing that parent advocacy. I'm bringing that strong force for special needs. Special education. That's my greatest attributes. The kids that everyone would say, oh, I can't deal with, or I don't understand why they function this way. Well, I'm taking that patience and saying that it's not their fault. Let's deal with the mental health by getting them the wraparound services that they need currently in the schools. Let's make sure we have autonomy with these teachers. Let's make sure that the administration is able to function the school that best suits their community. So that's what I'm standing strong on. Let's give the voice back, like I said, to the voiceless, which I felt administrators at times, because of micromanagement, and teachers, and especially special needs children, who I feel have been deprived the education that they so gratefully need. Every child can learn, but I'm going to tell you this, and as a strong educator, every teacher can't teach every child. Talk that talk. So what can we do? What can we do through the school board that will allow those changes to happen? What are some programs we can look at? What are some ways to implement change that we can make? Well, we need first to make sure that we have mental health in the schools. We need to make sure grassroots organizations are present in the schools. Mentoring programs, for sure. I'm a strong advocate for a mentoring program. We need to make sure there are sports not only just in the school, but there's outside. We need to make sure there's something for our girls to do. Trade schools, make sure that this is replicated in the schools. If it's working at one, let's bring it to the neighborhood school and make sure they have it as well. Because if you're saying and you're backing it and supporting 100%, then why can't we have the replication in the neighborhood school instead of busing children all the way out on the other end to that? What makes that good? What makes that right? Yeah. Sometimes being uncomfortable is not the best thing, not for our children. We know how it is as adults when we're uncomfortable, but we know how to maneuver that situation because we're adults now, the maturity level is different. But when it's a kid and they're not comfortable in the environment, and if they're dealing with homelessness, if they're dealing with maybe foster care, they come with a wealth of issues, baggage. Let's not give them more.
Yeah.
By busting them out of somewhere where they finally, they're comfortable. They've known these teachers for 3 years, just like all these changes of principles. We got to stop that.
Yeah.
People thrive because they're comfortable and they feel safe.
Yeah.
So let's make sure we're giving them that. And if their neighborhood needs work, let's make sure we work inside their neighborhood instead of taking them out of it. I mean, like I said, I was born and raised in same area, 30-something years. I lived in the same building. A lot of us went to the same schools. We had some of the, whatever issues was going on, we was able to work it out. The community helped raise a child. We all worked together. But I can say for myself, look where I'm at, 43 years old. Yeah. I don't say that I've reached all that I have to attain, but I'm grateful for the path that I actually am leading. And I'm proud to say that I am a leader, and I'm very empowering to others. And that's what also I'm going to bring to the board, empowerment for our parents.
I want to ask you this. I know one thing that you're very passionate about is the LGBTQ TIA plus community.
Yes.
What can be done in the schools to make sure that we're providing a safe environment for those children who are in that community?
We need inclusion and we need safe spaces. We need to make sure that at every school that there is someone to be an advocate there, that a child needs to know whom they can come to and speak to, whether if it's in the guidance or mentoring. Because my thing, this is real. This is who people are. They're walking in their truths. And school should be a safe zone, because a lot of times they cannot speak about that at home or their church or within their community. So where can they go? I remember myself being a child and not having too many people that I can really be comfortable with and talking to. And it was not easy. But, like I said, it would have been better. And that's why I'm thankful for a lot of the grassroots organizations here. I'm a founder of one, that we are able to start to bridge that gap and to start acknowledge that it's here. This is who people are. Let them walk in their truths. Representation matters, and just give them that love. Because I'm going to tell you, once we address and tackle that issue with our children and our youth, some of the behaviors is going to leave.
Yeah.
A lot of the stigmas is going to leave. The bullying will come to a cease because we're actually acknowledging it and showing them that it's okay to be whom you are. But let's see if we can help you, because we're supposed to be in the world of educating. And that's a part of education.
I love that. I got one more question for you, and I'm gonna let you roll, because I know, like you said, you had a long day, and I got to bring the next guest on. But I you talk that talk, and that's all I ask. Because you talk that talk, you put your resume on the line, and let the people vote how they will. What does success look like for you when you get elected and you come off of the board? What does success look like in Charleston County School Board for you?
I'm able, one, to pass the torch to the next person so that they can continue to keep empowering the parents, strengthening the community. We have grassroots working together. We have collaborations with local businesses. Schools are thriving. I'm seeing us out of the 46 out of 50 in the state. I mean, we can do this. I can see the change, and I believe strongly in the change, but we have to do it collectively.
I love it. And I love you, Gina. You already know what time it is. You already know what time it is. Please, how can they find you if they need to get in touch with you?
Facebook, Regina Duggins, Gina Mocha. You can find me on Instagram. You can email me. People have been doing it. You can call me, text me. I mean, however you can. Inbox me, because my thing is I'm an open book. And whatever it is that you want to know, as long as it's pertaining to what I'm actually doing, where it comes to the school board, then you're going to get the answer that you need.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that, Gina. You know what time it is. I appreciate you, and I will talk to you soon.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Good luck with the campaign.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on. I told y'all we bring the guests on. We've been running them down tonight. It's been a really good night of guests. It's looking like we may have to shuffle one around because somebody's supposed to be here who's not right now, but that's okay because I'm a professional. Anyway, I'm really excited about, these interviews tonight. I want to go ahead and take this time again to say thank you to every single candidate who is making the time to make the rounds and make their voice heard. I think it's so important that you guys, the candidates I'm speaking to, talk to the people. We cannot live in a world anymore. It's too much. It's too much technology for us to run just based on how many signs there are on a given street, or how many leaflets we can pass out. We have social media. Let's use it. And I'm very encouraged to see these candidates making the rounds, talking to the people in the community, using technology to make their voices heard. So with that being said, I want to bring on my very next guest. I am shuffling around my next guest. If you've been following the schedule, it's supposed to be Miss Latowya Miller-Jamison, but she's not in the room right now. So hopefully she's not having any problems. But my next guest after that is on, and that's Mr. Francis Marion Beylotte.
Beylotte, yes, sir.
Beylotte. Mr. Francis Marion Beylotte. Thank you so much for joining me, sir.
You're welcome. Thank you for inviting me.
No problem, man. No problem. I'm glad to have you on. It's going to be a great discussion. Please introduce yourself to the audience.
Okay, my name's Francis Beylotte. I'm from Charleston. I attended CCSD schools, James Island, all the way through to James Island High School. I graduated from University of South Carolina, where I studied psychology. I went on to study developmental psychology in my graduate program at Johns Hopkins University, where I worked in Baltimore for mental health and substance use treatment centers, implementing those directly in the community. From there, I moved back to Washington, D.C. and worked for the American Psychological Association, helping to reauthorize the Head Start program. And from there, I ended up back down in Richmond on my way back to Charleston, where I worked at the Department of Mental Health in Virginia, where I designed, funded, and I didn't fund it myself, but I gathered the funding from the General Assembly to implement wraparound services across the Commonwealth of Virginia, whether it was in schools or juvenile detention centers, or basically any place there's a lot of kids. We wanted to implement wraparound services. And this, if you know Virginia, from Wise County, way out in the coal country, all the way to the Norfolk urban centers is where I work developing wraparound services. So the reason I'm passionate about that, though, is because my own experience as a child included severe trauma. And I was sexually assaulted when I was 13 years old. Wow. And at that time, I didn't really, as a kid, I didn't know what to do, but I could tell you what I did do. I was angry. I wanted to burn down the world. And at that time, I attended James Island Middle School, and I must have been suspended 30 times. I lost count. And I was in the assistant principal office every single day getting suspended. And I liked being suspended because I could go home. I was failing. I was doing so much. But one day, the assistant principal wasn't there, and they sent me to the head principal, whose name is Franklin McCrae. And he saved my life because he saw something in me. He said, there's something going on with this kid. He's not just terrorizing this school. I can see, and I don't know what, maybe he had some sixth sense or something. And he brought in a psychologist, he brought in a social worker, and they identified that I had PTSD. They identified that I had a learning disability, so I could hardly write. And they put me into a special program at another middle school, Fort Johnson Middle School, which had kind of a social worker / teacher in the classroom. At that time, they called it emotionally handicapped. And there were about 10 kids in that class. And that experience in that class, Mr. McCrae's intervention, identification, and plugging me into wraparound service is why I'm sitting here today.
Wow.
And why I went on to do the kind of work I wanted to do. So when I moved back to Charleston, we end up back here one way or another. I don't know why.
Every single time. We
got pluff mud in our veins or something, in our brains. my kids are here, they're going to CCSD schools. And that's when I started paying attention more as a parent, like most people did. And I realized that the kind of wraparound services that were available to me had not only been increased and spread around, but they're almost gone. It was just gone, you know, and it's the piecemeal. I think they have 3 social workers for the whole district, 84 schools, 50,000 students. And just like Regina was talking about, these kids getting suspended, these aren't bad kids, because I know I'm not a bad person.
Right.
Things are happening to you, and as a kid, you don't understand. You get, especially as a young man, it's angry, it's violence comes out.
Yep.
And this needs to be addressed from a behavioral health, a mental health perspective. And that is something that I saw was really important. And I ran for the the school board in 2018, and that's what I pretty much talked about all the time. Now, I didn't win because I went up against some really good candidates like Paul Padron. But after that, I was appointed to the Health Advisory Commission, which is this part of CCSD's development of health education in the schools. And from there, I intended to do what I could to try to get more of these wraparound services into the schools, because to me, it's a matter of life and death, you know?
Yeah.
So that's my perspective. That's what I think about professionally. It's what I think about based on my personal experience. And so, you know, what got me here this time, though, is continuing to be involved with CCSD. After I ran in 2018, I kind of had a seat at the table. And what I saw, it did not make me happy. And so that's kind of what you're seeing now, because, you know, if you can feel I'm a little heated right now, it's because
nothing wrong with it.
We had another forum before this. And so everybody knows we got the Coalition for Kids and kind of everybody else.
Yeah.
And so I saw the Coalition for Kids win in 2018, right? They got their force, they got their slates, they took over the board. Because listen, the board is a numbers game. You need 5 votes. You can come up with the smartest thing in the world, but if you can't get 4 votes, it ain't gonna happen.
Right.
So it's just like the Supreme Court, you know, you need your people there. And the Coalition for Kids put their people there. And so I sat back and said, okay, let's see what you're gonna do. And what they wanted to do was bring in private operators to take over 15% of the schools, which are mostly Black, and take the accountability away from the community and give it to these outside operators from out of states. And this is the main controversy we're having right now. So it's pretty heated, man. It's pretty heated. And as you may or may not know, there's been some shots across the bow. I'm wearing my Benedict T-shirt to show solidarity with Kevin Hollingshead, who basically had some racist commercials run against him. I haven't seen anybody apologize for that. Have you?
No.
And so I hope they would. We've seen social media posts from the former chair of the Charleston County Democratic Party, Brady Quirk Garvin, accusing Ericka Cokley of being superstitious and uneducated, a really bad racial trope based on some information he thinks that suggests she's against vaccinations, which she's not. They're getting low with us. They're getting low. This is some Lee Atwater type stuff. And you know, to me, I had to step back for a second and say, you know what? I think this is actually a good thing because they're scared.
So let me ask you this. What does Francis, and thank you, I want to thank you for sharing that, because that's important information. They gotta know who they're running, who's running. Can you tell me, what does Francis bring to the board that does not currently exist there?
I think it's my specific experience developing, designing, and evaluating wraparound programs. So if we bring those in, I have the expertise to really guide that process. Other than that, I think, I don't think we have enough members on the board with kids in schools right now.
Okay.
So if you look at the failures with the restart, I think a lot of that had to do with people not living the day-to-day situation that we're living with kids running over all over our house all day and nothing to do with them. So I think that's another thing we really need to focus on, bringing people to the board. I'm also already working with members that I also hope get elected, like Gina, like Ericka, because as I said before, I can say whatever I want, but if I can't get 4 people to come along with me, ain't nothing going to happen. So I'm trying to work ahead of the election so that as soon as we get elected, we can hit the ground with a different trajectory, a trajectory that builds trust in the community. Because what we have right now is extreme mistrust. I don't think it's ever been worse to be. You go back to John Graham Altman. You remember him? I mean, the mistrust is worse now than it was then. So, jumping off what you said to Gina, I mean, that's the first thing we need to do. We need to get out there and we need to reestablish, if we've ever had it, trust with all the communities that we're going to listen to you and we're going to work on what you tell us to work on. Because that's how public service works.
Yeah.
And so I'm seeing the exact opposite. In West Ashley, they came to us and they said, well, what do you want us to do with your middle school? What do you want us to do with Stone Oak Park? And we told them, and they said, no, we're not going to do that.
Wow.
And I'm not going to get into the details of that project, but if anyone wants to go to the CCSD Mission Critical website, look at the West Ashley page for the report we put together. It's a good report. It focuses on equity. It focuses on making sure Geechee Gullah heritage is appreciated. I mean, it's a good proposal, and they just ignored it, and they did the exact opposite. So we don't have trust anymore.
Can you explain, because a term has been used several times that some people in the audience may not understand. Can you explain what wraparound services are?
That's a good, I'm glad you asked that, because that's one. Let's talk about something we all agree on. And I can tell you all 16 candidates running right now, when you talk about wraparound services, you see them nodding their head on Zoom. And that just means kind of what I talked about when I had my problem. And the principal or somebody at the school identifies something with this kid. It's like something's not right. Something's else is going on. And you bring in a psychologist who can do psychological testing. You can bring in a social worker who does social work evaluation to find out about trauma psychology. And then you put them into classrooms where they have teachers that have 2 levels of training. Like if you look at the amount of training that Gina has, she's the kind of professional academic that can integrate psychology, integrate sociology, and teach history at the same time.
Yes.
So that's a wraparound service provider is somebody that's like a dentist and a doctor at the same time. You know what I mean? So they can come in the classroom and they know when Johnny's on the ground throwing his book down, it's not because he's mean. It's not because he's a bad kid. It's time to work on something else. And so it also includes another thing which is important, which is going into homes and reaching out to parents in homes, reaching out to guardians in home. And really the term wraparound makes sense because you're coming around the kid with all the resources available in the community. And if you do that, you have a lot of success because a kid can't do tests when you can't do tests when you're angry.
Yeah. And also just to add on, wraparound services also includes bringing in community organizations to work with the school to reach the whole kid. I just want to make sure I added that piece in as well, which both you and Gina have spoken about earlier. Our interviews flew by really fast, man. Where can they find you and make one last push towards why should they vote for you?
You can find me. You can also find me on Facebook. You can email me at my last name BEYLOTTE @gmail.com. You can call me at 843-801-3389. I'm getting calls every day. I got a call from a parent today asking me if I was going to support Black Lives Matter in the curriculum. So I decided to put this behind me today. That's your answer right there. So, you get all kinds of questions and I'm happy to answer them anytime, anywhere. But all I can say is, just do your homework. Don't go, like you said, don't go off a sign. A billboard costs $50,000. If you're running for school board and you can afford a billboard, something's not right. These signs right here, these cost $1,200 for 2 of them. So, for 200, excuse me.
$1,200, like, geez.
Yeah, but I mean, here's the way I look at it. If you're spending $200,000 to get on the school board, that's something's funky about that.
Yeah.
That's all I gotta say.
Yeah.
So
Especially for it's $25 a meeting.
yeah. So, anybody can reach out to me anytime. I'm happy to talk about stuff. I'm happy to be part of a slate with Gina, Ericka, and Kristen. And hopefully I'm supporting Kevin Hollingshead. And that's the kind of cohort I look forward to getting on the board and working with and regaining trust and really working towards equity in these schools.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for your passion. Thank you for your time. And I wish you the best in the campaign. We got to get together and get some coffee sometime soon.
Thank you.
Hash things out, man. It was good talking to you.
Nice. Likewise.
All right, man. God bless you. Have a good night.
Thank you. You too. What do I do? You gonna?
I'll pull you out. You good? All right. Now, Mr. Francis Marion Beylotte. I hope I got it right. I'm sorry if I didn't. I apologize. But as you can see, there are people that are very serious, very passionate, very they're serious about this. This is not something they just rolled out of bed and decided to do because it sounded like a cool thing to do. There's a lot of research, there's a lot of investment, there's a lot of time and energy that goes into these people, signing up to take part in these campaigns. So please make sure you're taking them seriously. Make sure that you're looking into these candidates. If you have additional questions, they're putting their information out there. Some of them are giving you their phone numbers. I wouldn't have gave y'all my phone number, but they gave y'all their phone numbers. So please call them because they are cool with that. Don't call me. Do not call me. With that being said, we're going to keep it rolling. I want to bring on my next guest for this evening. Now, I got to admit, I was taken aback when I saw the application. I didn't know that we had a presidential candidate here in the Charleston area, but my next guest, Miss Latowya Jamison Miller, is a United States presidential candidate. Thank you so much for joining me, ma'am. You're muted. You're muted.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much, ReZsaun, for this beautiful opportunity and your beautiful platform. And yes, I am Latowya Miller-Jamison. I decided to run almost about a year and a half ago. And I was denied because of my age. They told me that I was not old enough. I did not turn 35 until June 2020. So I had to wait, send in all of my paperwork, financial reports, and everything. So some people were thinking that I was coming in on the back end. However, when God is in the midst, he always finds a different strategy for you to work it out behind the scenes. So I am what most people would consider like a sponsored donor. I'm also a behind the scene activist. I love to work in everything, not just Black Lives Matter, not just in the school system, not just in the recreational department. I am just an all-around person. I have gained a lot of relationship in the holistic community, as well as in the LGBT community, and the list goes on. Not because of me being around these individuals, but because I had what they consider spiritual or familiar spirit. I also walked in these shoes as a lesbian. I also walked as a bisexual woman. I also went through a lot of different stuff. I was able to learn a lot of different journeys and paths during this lifetime in my 35 years. Some people tell me I'm a little bit, wise for my age. However, in this journey, it has been pretty fun, and it also gave me a platform to be able to see from other people's perspective.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me. So first of all, so thank you for sharing that. So what part of North Charleston are you from?
Somerville. I was
in Ville.
I was actually in North Charleston at one time. I just moved about 2 years ago to Somerville.
Okay. All right, cool. So what made you interested in running for the presidency?
Let me tell you, I don't like politics. I don't like anything pertaining to politics. I am just a regular girl who likes to move behind the scenes. I don't need somebody counting my pennies. I don't need everybody to know what I did for my neighbor. I look at my brothers and sisters. I look at my brothers and sisters in a personal way, meaning I try my best to put myself myself in people's shoes. Like I know what it is to go through homeless while being married and going through and trying to figure out my own patterns. So the last thing I wanted was somebody else's life to be aired on Live 5 News.
Yeah.
I have a lot of media friends. I have a lot of people that have different access to financial stuff and all of this sort of stuff because of my personality. I didn't want to do the same thing that normal politicians do. Like they spend a lot of money in billboards and, campaign. However, a lot of that money could have go towards trying to figure out what this coronavirus thing is, trying to put a stop to that, towards homelessness, towards, trying to help some of the churches to see from the LGBT community, because a lot of people are actually broken and they are sending these individuals out to MUSC and causing them unnecessary bills. And it's not because of their some people would say shoes or their journey. It is what the depression, like trying to fit in somebody else's expectation. And when you're trying to fit in somebody's expectation, as myself, I had been disqualified in a lot of areas, and some people, they gave me a chance and said, hey, Latowya, I see more qualification in you. So that's what the same thing, I use that same approach to be able to help my LGBTQ family behind the scenes, as well as my homeless individuals. I took my own money out of my own bank account, out of my own household, to be able to help these individuals and give back. I didn't need to go live every single time I did that. And I look down on that because I remember, just a quick little testimony. I remember when I was really low, and I remember somebody aired out some of my dirty laundry.
Wow.
And I did not like that because me personally, as a woman, I already deal with a lot of emotional stuff because I have 2 children that have special needs. So I advocate for them a lot behind the scene and IEP meetings, and the list goes on. So I learned how to put myself in individual shoes. So right now, I decided that this is the perfect time, because with Donald Trump inside of the seat right now, with his viewpoints, is not helping the whole audience, meaning everyone. Just like with Joe Biden, like there are some things I really felt like they did the same approach that they were trying to do with Obama. They try to use the race card to a certain degree. However, just like, for instance, when they brought Kamala Harris in, to the Black people, we are already emotional doing a lot of the racism thing that is going on. And we wanted Donald Trump out the seat so bad. And we decided, hey, we were willing to take anybody. A stray dog could have came along. We would have taken the dog, And what I realized that pulled me away from Joe Biden as well as Donald Trump was, one, I don't believe in racism on Donald Trump's side. I can't, even if somebody is supporting me financially, I cannot leave the next person out because somebody else is endorsing me. Joe Biden, one of the things that they were talking about was the science. A lot of times people don't really dig deep or do their own research. And what is the science? The science is around medication. Who does that affect? Who does the science affect? It affects the poor community, those ones who can't afford the medication, those ones, just like the coronavirus vaccine, they are looking at vaccination. And one of the things about vaccination, they're not going to test these on the rich individuals. They are going to test these on the individuals who just want a quick fix, who is not going to do the research and who's not going to do the work. So one of the things I explain is, yes, we have to always do our research, and there's so much I can be able to share. However, I don't want to go over my time on your platform just out of respect. And
I appreciate that.
And I'm going to put the ball back in your court.
Yeah, so I want to make sure, because we're running out of time, but I'll make sure I get to a couple of things. So what's the economic plan? Like what are you proposing? To bring us out of this economic downturn that we've reached because of COVID.
So right now, definitely universal health care. I am a medical major. I went to school. I learned a lot in the medical field. I also was able to work behind the scenes at as a volunteer. And as a volunteer, a lot of times volunteers get overlooked, but we do a lot of work that we don't get paid for. And I did say volunteer, meaning even though I came in as an extern, I was not paid for this. And I was able to see a lot of things firsthand on how to way they treat the poor individuals, as well as some middle class individuals that come in and they don't know what the right questions to ask. So definitely universal health care, definitely not making Medicaid and Medicare just something that is for people who are making less than an income, because none of us are in a position, none of us are in a position to say we making more than the next person, because the rich have to rob the middleman and the middleman have to rob the poor man. So at the end of the day, somebody's always robbing somebody, and I refuse to allow any of my brothers and sisters, and that's not about race, that's about everybody. I am all about everybody's race, because right now we are in a time and place where everything seems like they want to be segregated. I refuse for anything pertaining to my platform or anything that I believe in to be segregated. So definitely universal health care for everyone.
All right. Well, thank you for that. Last thing I want to ask you: how do we deal with how do we solve the issues of racial separation in our country?
It's definitely an inside job. It's like, I'm gonna give you a personal testimony. I was actually raised inside of a Black community where we was on Section 8 and a whole lot of government assistance, food stamp, the whole 9 yards. And when I realized that we were not the only one on these type of assistance, we had some what they call Caucasians in our community. We had some Spanish in this community. We had diversity in this community. So when I said it's an inside job, it really takes individuals stepping back to really see that this is not just an attack towards Black people. It's not an attack towards just Caucasian people or the Spanish community or the other ethnicities that come along with it. We just really have to just step back, just like the same way we do in business. We have to step back and really look at the individual as an individual. And that's why I believe personally why I chose the independent role to be president, because I look at the individual. I don't look at their skin color, their bank account, because at the end of the day, none of that is going to get me into a heaven nor hell.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. Where can they find out more information about you if they want to, run out and support you? If they want to, contact you to get more information, how can they reach you?
Okay, so I'm also on Facebook platform, my personal page. So everything there is going to be personal. They can also find. Okay, so they can also find me at Latowya 2020 president. For us is 4.us, and I will also put it down in the link down below so that way they could be able to have it. And
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And I also want to give my business cell phone number if anyone wants to call and discuss this matter even further. My telephone number is 843-729-0464. And my email is latoyamiller@gmail.com.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you joining me. Thank you for taking the time out. I wish you well with the campaign. I know it's probably, people telling you, you can't do whatever, but I admire your strength and I admire your commitment. So I just want to, wish you the best, and let's reach out. Let's link up one of these days. I live in the Ville, so we can definitely reach out and figure out ways we can help the community together.
Thank you, ReZsaun. I appreciate it.
If you need cabinet members, holla at your boy.
All right. I'm going to take you up on that offer.
Definitely. God bless you. You have a good night, okay?
God bless you too, sir.
Yes, ma'am. Bye. All right. We keeping it rolling. Thank you so much to Miss Latowya Miller-Jamison. Latowya Miller-Jamison, thank her so much for coming on, taking the time out. It like I said, it takes a lot of thought to do this. To run for a campaign, especially something as big as the presidency of the United States of America. And I wish her all the best. That's all we can do for one another is wish each other the best. But next up, y'all done made this mama angry. And this mama decided to run for the school board for Charleston County. Give it up, give it up for Ericka Cokley. What up, sis?
What's up, ReZsaun?
You already know what it is, man. How's it going?
Man, I'm tired. I'm not even gonna lie. I'm tired. It's been fun. Thank you. Welcome back. And look what you are doing.
Man, listen, man. You know how I when y'all like, you're gonna do the show, and I'm like, no. But when God has a plan for you, you really don't have a whole lot of control over that. So I think I accept the charge. I accept the charge, and I'm gonna do what thus says the Lord. So that's how I'm rolling. If he don't want me to do it, then he'll stop me from doing it.
Yeah, we know, because my computer wouldn't be working, right?
Right. I'm saying, and your computer working this time, girl. We coming all the way up. Oh my God. But please introduce yourself to the audience.
Ericka Cokley. Y'all know what it is. Look at the shirt.
You already know. Here.
You know what it is. Running for Consolidated School Board. If y'all don't know me by now, just go ahead and Google it. I'm going to just tell y'all, I'm tired right now. I'm ready to go to sleep. I've been on these forums. It's been fun. I'm reserving my last little bit of energy for Saturday. Polls are going to be open. I am running for the Consolidated School Board, District 10 West Ashley. I've been watching it. Y'all have been watching it. Y'all already know why I'm running. I'm running to be a parent, a voice from the community. We have to make sure that we are the voices of the community. We have to make sure that we're holding our parents accountable. Listening to everything tonight, all of this has been a learning process, relationship building. I've built relationships with Pogue, Kristin, Graziano, political, just learning this stuff. So right now, the only thing I can tell my kids, this is where our relationships are building. I'm running because I see our children need help. I saw a need. I was a product of South Carolina public school systems. I raised my children through public school systems. Y'all know I have my son that I talk about all the time, that we have autism, that I knew that it was the schools telling me that, no, we have this. And I was like, no, we have that. So we have to be our biggest advocates for our children. And the only thing I can keep saying is, we as parents cannot reach or teach our children, then the rest of the world does not have to. So that's why I'm running, to make sure that I'm a voice of the community, to make sure that our public schools are staying public. And right now, not shed light on anything other than the fact that parents need to do your research, do your homework, and open your eyes. We as African-American children have been losing out on our education for a very long time, and we already know why. So until we address the real inequities, the real inequalities, and the reasons why we're dealing with that in our system, we're going to be back in the circle again. As I listened to Francis, and this wasn't a part of what I was going to talk about, but listening to Francis for the first time and hearing of the things that he dealt with. And like I keep continuing to say, the wraparound services that what he needed. Look, he was a white male. He got those services. He was suspended 30 times, but at the end of the day, he still got the services that he needed to be where he is right now to tell his story. Put that on a Black child. A child that's been suspended 30 times, I don't think we would have got to being suspended 30 times before the resource officers that we're placing in our schools, instead of the therapists or the psychologists or the social workers that we need, or the mentor programs that we're building. The real programs. This is what we're talking about, and this is what we're talking about that we are lacking. Don't give it to us when you deem fit. Don't give it to us when you feel like it's something that we need. Give it to us when our children first step into school. Because you keep hearing me say at ReZsaun, we as African-American people, especially women, we are normalizing and accepting traumas that do not belong to us, and we cannot learn academically until we as parents, as mothers, as fathers, and as caregivers learn to heal our generations and our brokenness. We're going to keep raising generations of broken children who are not inclined to learn academically. And that's it. Inequality, effectiveness, we have to do that to our education. We have to make sure that our teachers have the resources, and we have to be sure that the parents are the voices and the teachers are the voices for the necessary resources that where the funds can be allocated where they're needed.
Thank you for sharing that, and thank you for saying that. I think a lot of those things that you just said, you pinpointed, were so important. I want to talk about something that you said in the middle of your statement about building relationships. One of the reasons that a lot of things aren't done in any legislative capacity sometimes is because there's a lack of ability to reach across the aisle and work with someone that you may disagree with. How does Ericka Cokley step into this Charleston County School Board and work with someone that may be maybe from the Coalition for Kids, for example, that you may disagree with, but still get stuff done?
I mean, that's just what it is in the real world. We have to be able to agree to disagree on some things. And that's the only way to building those relationships, sitting down and talking to those people, and not just building what you think about that person off of something that somebody else has said. And that's basically how we educate our children, off of what we think someone else has said. So whether it is a Coalition for a Kid candidate, whether it is someone else that just hopped onto the board, we have to make sure that when we sit down collectively, that we're also actually sitting down collectively and listening to the people that are needing what it is that we have to do.
Yeah. I want to ask you this question, and this is, a question I didn't think to ask, but I something that Francis said earlier made me think that I need to ask a question. There's been a lot of demonizing of people in the midst of this campaign. And I want to know what your thoughts are in regards to this style of campaigning for a school board election.
Honestly, ReZsaun, and this is Real Talk with ReZsaun, I'm not a political person. I'm not a political person at all. But the only thing that I see right now in 2020 is, and why I took the steps that I did to run, and took the steps that I did to get people to register, and took the measures that I did to get people to open their eyes, it is vote or die right now. It's like do or die. It's like either you step up or you do something, or basically we're going to die. And so as I'm looking at what's happening, the blows being thrown, and as I've told several people just outside of me not even campaigning, I'm like, you keep your political stuff everywhere else, but you don't bring it into our school systems. And so to me, the things that I've seen, even towards myself as a mother, as a Black mother, as a Black candidate, they're heartbreaking because this is a school board race.
Yeah.
Now imagine if I was going for something else. To know that my values, or that my ideologies, or the value that I place on my life because of what's happening, and you disagree with that. And so then you take certain measures to slander, to lie, to defame, to take away from me personally. I do take that kind of personally. The thing is, I haven't counterattacked because I'm not a political person, because I know why I am in this. My heart is in this. My children are in this. And when I want people to think about the measures that people are taking in a school board campaign, if you're taking these measures to get in a position, and if you're spending these amounts of money to get in a school board race, what's actually in it for you, and what are you actually going to get out of it?
I wanted to give you an opportunity to address that. I just think I wouldn't be me, we wouldn't be us if I didn't give you an opportunity to respond to that situation. I think you responded perfectly, to be honest with you. Let's talk about the things that can happen within the schools to make the changes that we want to see. What's on the plan for Ericka Cokley? What do you want to see happen day one, Charleston County School Board?
Bringing parents in and making parents be accountable. PTA, student improvement councils, like the mentorship programs, and not just the services for the parents, for the students, but also for the parents, because there are lots of things that parents don't know or just basically aren't aware of. So when you have everybody, like they said, that wraparound service, it's like that big hug, that village, that community. We have to build that back. And when one piece of it is broken, having a son that has autism, and I'm letting these people, he's in a new school right now. And because of COVID, haven't been able to tour the new school. I wasn't, he wasn't, we just went. You know, not being able to meet the people personally, but one day before we get there. And we have to think about all of these children, not just the ones that have special needs, but when we think of our children, when we're taking them to daycare, or when we're taking them to the grandma, and we've had our children with 6 months, that anxiety that our children that we don't know that they're dealing with, and then that prolongs into turning 1 and 2 years old. So we have to make sure that that education and that awareness and that you know, that strengthening and that bond is not just built between the students and teachers, but it's also there for the parents too. So I want to see parents there. And then once we start to speak about what it is and not look at them as problems, and I keep saying these obstacles and how we can overcome, we think of them one at a time. Okay, if it's a busing situation, then we figure out how to make sure we get them transportation. If it's a social situation, then we work on that. But we collectively figure it out, not just have them telling us what it is and then we do what it is without the resources that you're supposed to give us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Y'all done made this mama angry and she decided to run for the school board. And you know, hey, listen, I know you're tired. You earned your rest tonight. You earned your rest tonight, huh?
I appreciate it. I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
Hey,
and seriously, I just want to say, and I'll leave y'all with this. Like I said, all of this has been a learning process. Win or lose, learning process, and something that I can leave with my children because of the people that I've met doing this, the things that I've learned doing this, and the platform that I was able to build and be able to tell my children and everybody else about voting. If y'all ain't seen these people on the ground, if y'all ain't know y'all done made people angry, if you can't call people and make them be held accountable, don't vote. I don't care if it's Democratic or Republican. Because I don't know how many people have had a conversation with Al Cannon. I done had a conversation with Kristin Graziano. I don't know how many people done really sat down and had Scarlett Wilson say, "Hey, Ericka, how you doing?" But I done had that conversation with Ben Pogue. I mean that. I had a small conversation with, you know what I'm saying, just certain people. But if you haven't had these real conversations with these people, don't y'all check them ballots.
Talk that talk. Hey, how can they find you, Ericka?
Y'all already know me. I'm all over Facebook. Ericka Cokley, Cokley at Facebook. My school board is Cokley, my last name. Cokley for Consolidated School Board. That's on Facebook. Cokley for School Board dd10@gmail.com. All the way spelled out. Also, y'all know I do my Women's March, so y'all can find that on Facebook. Or you can just Google me on Live 5. Y'all know me, stopping the school buses. Angry Mama, look for me.
There it is. I appreciate you. I love you. I respect you and I support you.
I love you more.
You already know. So go get your rest. I appreciate you and I will see you soon.
Yes, sir.
All right, all right, all right. Moving on. Moving on. Look, we got 2 guests left. I have 2 guests remaining. This has been a marathon, and I'm trudging my way through. But I will not lose energy. Why? Because I still have more guests, and I got to make sure I give all my guests that good energy. I got to give all of them that positive energy because they took their time to come speak to you. They're making their way. They're making the rounds. They're making their voices heard for every single, like anybody who got a camera and is willing to talk to them, they are out here. And I want to echo what Ericka said. If there are people who have not taken the time to speak to you, the voter, I would not give them my vote. Even if I'm not even talking about this platform here. There are so many platforms that people can come on and let you know who they are, what their platform is, what they represent, who they are as a person. If they're not doing it now, they're not going to do it. And we cannot waste our votes on them. With that being said, I want to bring on my next guest. She is also running for the Charleston County Consolidated School Board, and her name is Miss Kristin French. Thank you so much for joining me, Miss French. You are on mute.
Hello.
There we go. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I am great. I am great. Thank you so much for joining me.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I really appreciate it.
No problem. No problem. Please introduce yourself to the audience.
I'm Kristin French. I've been living in North Charleston for about 24 years. I am a scientist, a mom, a wife, and a beekeeper, although I don't have any bees right now, sadly. And I've done a lot of community work, mostly working with other community groups and helping them get networked with information and resources. So I really enjoy trying to help people get to the things that they need. And I think that's one of the things that's lacking for our school board is the district responding to what our schools need. And so I'm hoping that I can help facilitate that.
Awesome. Awesome. So you said you're originally from the Low Country?
Actually, I'm not. I've lived here 24 years. I grew up in Alabama.
What part?
I live near Tuscaloosa in a city called Northport.
Okay.
And I grew up there, and I was an Auburn fan. And so I have to tell you, it was not fun to live across the river from the University of Alabama.
I can understand that for sure. I can understand that for sure. Well, we're glad to have you for the last 24 years. I think after 24 years, are you still a come-ya? Is that a thing or?
You know, I have a feeling I probably am, but
it's okay. It's all right.
I feel good. I love this area. I love North Charleston. I love North Charleston, and I'm really glad we decided when we first came here, we moved to Mount Pleasant, and we lived there 6 months, and we're like, no. So we moved to North Charleston. It's closer to where my husband worked, and it's just been a really great place to live.
Awesome. I am from North Charleston, so I have a special affinity for the city of North Charleston. I always will. And I'm a North Charleston High School graduate. Go Cougs.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. So let's talk about the school board. So what made you want to run for the school board?
So I've been following the school board and our education system for a while. I was involved with a quality education project for a few years, off and on, trying to keep tabs on what was going on. And when I saw the situation with the Coalition for Kids in 2018, backing a lot of candidates, and I saw that they were doing this again, I realized that there was a lot at stake. And so I wanted to step in and provide another choice for people and remind them how important it is to keep our public schools public and not bring in outside operators to run our schools. And I also wanted to do that in a way to say there's a different way to go about making our neighborhood schools better. And I think that we can do this. We have people on the ground in our schools that are really intelligent, and they know what needs to happen. And we need to listen to that instead of acting like we need to tell them what to do.
Yeah. So what's on the Kristin French plan for improving Charleston County schools?
Okay, so the main thing, and now I'll use the acceleration school action plan as an example. Those 15 schools that are in that plan are on the docket to be outsourced. My plan is to stop that and then turn around and say, let's go into these schools and make sure the school improvement councils are functional, the PTAs are functional, that the administration, the principal is leading a true leadership team within his staff so that all parts of the staff and parents and students are part of that process and helping to decide what's needed. Because I think once we strengthen those programs, those groups, those leadership groups within each school, that will be the best way for the district to find out what the school needs to make a better learning environment for their kids. And I know it's going to involve making a better teaching environment for the teachers. We need to make sure that we do everything we can at the district level to reinstate the step increases right away, retroactively, and we need to increase our staff pay for the support staff, because a lot of them are living on hourly wages that are not a living wage. And so we're furthering a culture of poverty by fostering it within our schools. So that's one of the things we need to change so that students and families really see that we are about creating opportunities for people instead of continuing poverty. So I think those two things really need to go hand in hand. All of these schools need more resources, but it's going to involve the leadership teams in the schools helping us to understand what they really need in order to make it successful and sustainable.
Absolutely.
So the community schools model is one of the best proven methods to create sustainable, healthy schools that thrive and over time. And it often, almost always helps to eliminate racial disparities and opportunity gaps. It's going, and of course, like Ericka and Francis were saying, it involves a lot of wraparound services that help bridge the gap between in the classroom and the community. So that, because part of the problems that we have are related to the fact that the community of the around the school is suffering. So, you know, if kids are coming to school from a community that's suffering, that's going to contribute to difficulties at their school.
Yes, yes.
But the school can turn around and provide things that will help everyone thrive.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And thank you for sharing that as well. Great, all great points, and that sounds like a great plan. I have a question about this. How do we bridge the gap between the school board and the community? Because I think that there seems to be a pretty desperate gap between what the community thinks they need for the schools and what the school board thinks they need for the schools. Can you talk a little bit about that and how we bridge that gap?
Yeah, and I understand that that can be very tough. I come at this from a background as a scientist, and I did part of my postdoc work was in community-based research, and this is also a problem with research where they kind of call it helicopter research, where scientists come in and do their research and then jump back out, and they don't learn about the community. And so I worked with an organization in North Charleston called CCRAB, and it was a community research action board. And so they are still active, and they work with researchers to make sure that any research projects that are done in their community meet the needs of the community. You know, they don't want to just do research if it's not going to answer questions that's going to help that community thrive. So in the same way, the school board cannot just stand aside and say from on high, well, we know what you need, and that's what we're going to do. Right. They also can't create these fake community engagement meeting initiatives like Mission Critical, where they say, well, we're going to listen to what you want, and then turn around and not listen. So it has to be genuine and authentic. So that's why I feel like instead of asking parents to engage in giant community meetings with people from all over the North area, for instance, it needs to be part of what their school needs, you know, and it needs to be an ongoing process. You can't just have a series of meetings and then quit. It has to be an engaged PTA, an engaged school improvement council, so that you can really continue the work until the school is doing what's needed. So as a school board member, I see part of my role will be to make sure that the district is communicating with those groups regularly. So that the district staff needs to have the capacity and the will and the climate to engage with each school and help them network to the resources they need. And they do this in some ways. You know, for instance, we have a partnership with MUSC that has several schools where it provides telehealth, which is very important to those school communities. So I know the district's got some capacity to do this, but the direction from the top is not supporting that. And so another way the school board needs to act is to tell the leadership at the top, the district superintendent, and the second level administrators that this is what they need to do. They need to listen, they need to engage, and they need to respond. And they need to respond to what is asked for, not decide what they're going to get.
Wow. I love that. I love that. Wow.
Thank you.
You mentioned the QEP. Yes. And several people have mentioned the QEP during the course of this evening. Can you talk a little bit about what that is? Right. About what it is and what sort of what was found out. I know that's a very big thing, but if you could like narrow it down just a little for people who may not understand.
Okay. Well, my experience with Quality Education Project, which is a nonprofit organization, is that they have met regularly with community meetings over the years. And I'm not exactly sure when they started. I think I've been aware of them probably for about 6 years. And one of the things they do is they get together and talk about what they see is not working in the school. For instance, they were very focused on why the school to prison pipeline is so embedded in our school system. And so a lot of the work that they did was to educate each other and the community about things like why the zero tolerance policy for discipline really ends up putting so many minority children into the prison system, and keeps them from being in school. Black and brown children are suspended at higher rates, and this is all related to what we now talk about all the time: implicit bias and other institutional biases in our system. And institutional racism. So QEP's been working on these kind of issues for several years before it became popular. And I think that's been so valuable to me to learn about. One of the books that we talked about was a book that Derek Black wrote, and it was about the zero tolerance policy, and he really brought that forward so well. And now that we're learning so much about from local journalists about how the Coalition for Kids, a dark money group, has been supporting candidates and trying to not only have a majority on the board, but ultimately to have all the members at their beck and call. Derek Black just came out with a new book that is about how privatization, the people who are proponents of privatization are really trying to take over our public school systems and why it's hurting democracy. So I'm really excited to read it. I haven't read it yet, but I heard him in an interview, and some of the ideas I've been mulling about, I'm like, oh, he's going to approve this because he researches this. He understands what he's talking about. And so I'm really excited to learn more about that. And these are the kind of things that I have learned through QEP that have really helped me. And I've met a lot of good educators like Carol Temple, George Hopkins from College of Charleston, who's a retired professor there. Just amazing people that really, and Millicent Brown, who has been involved in education for decades and an amazing activist. Love Miss Millicent. Yes, I respect her so much. And I've just really enjoyed learning so much about the history of Charleston. And oh gosh, they did a series on the nurses' strike during the anniversary. I think it was last year or the year before. So they did a lot of forums on that, and that was wonderful. It's just, that's what I've found from the Quality Education Project. I hope that helps.
Absolutely. I want to thank you so much for sharing that. It looks like our time is about up, but I definitely have enjoyed it. It goes by fast, right? 15 minutes. Sure does. So fast. But I want to thank you for your time. Again, I want to say it to you, while you're on here. And I've said it, multiple times throughout the course of the night. It's so important that people like yourself step out and let the community know who the people are who are running. So I want to thank you, and I want to wish you the best with your campaign. If there's anything I can do to support you once you are elected to that office, please reach out. I'm a really easy person to find.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
How can they find you?
Okay, so the quickest way is to go to my website, which is KristenFrenchForSchoolBoard.com, and that has my email, my phone, and my Facebook. But it's easy to find me on Facebook. You just look up Kristen French for School Board. I'm on Twitter, and I started Instagram, although Yeah, I feel kind of old, but don't think I know what I'm doing.
Instagram will make you feel old. There's just something about Instagram that's like, yo, should I be here?
I know, it's hard. I'm like, my kids, my 16-year-old just teases me constantly. She's like, Mom, and she's like, Instagram is old. You know, that only old people use that.
Yeah,
like,
that's what my kids told me too.
I'm not that young, actually.
My kids told me the same thing. Like, Dad, I was like, all right. My kids turned 13, and I was like, do you want to get a Facebook? And they're like, nobody uses Facebook, Dad. I'm like, oh, well, I'm just happen to be talking to thousands of people every week at a place where nobody is. So take that, children. But anyway, thank you so much again. I really enjoyed our conversation, and I look forward to speaking to you again in the future.
Thank you. It's very nice to meet you.
Yes, ma'am. You have a great evening.
You too.
All right. And now we are to our final guest of the evening. We started at 7. It is now 9:41. We marathon this thing. We pushed it through candidate by candidate by candidate. And now we are bringing on Miss Courtney Waters. Thank you so much for joining me, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Wow. Thank you so much for being here. It's really great to finally meet you. I've heard so many amazing things from so many people about you. So to be able to finally make your acquaintance, I'm glad that we're able to do this. Please introduce yourself to the audience.
Yes. Hi, everybody. My name is Courtney Waters, and I'm running for a seat on the Charleston County School Board, wanting to represent the North Charleston area. I am a former school teacher, former supply chain management professional, and current education leader. And I'm hoping to bring my combined experiences and my passion and my personal history as well to the work, and just excited to have a conversation and answer whatever questions I can for you all.
Awesome. So let's talk about, what brings you to the school board? Why the school board?
Yeah. So, education has been my passion since college, and it's because I think it's the one thing that has the opportunity to equalize us all. Access to information, access to opportunity is the thing that's going to make the difference, but it just has not been that for so long for most of our kids. And the reason is because the system was really never created to effectively educate all children. When integration of schools happened and forced segregation happened, and when forced integration happened, all students of color went into a system that was already moving along without them in mind. Mm-hmm. And so what we've got to do, in my opinion, is reform the system so that it is built to suit the needs of all children. And that's going to be from a personnel standpoint, that's from a financial standpoint, from the standpoint of what programs go into place. And so I think school board is a very unique opportunity to level the playing field. It's happened in my life personally. I come from a single parent household, oldest of 5 kids. I certainly know what it's like to be looked at and have somebody not think you're going to be very much, and what it's like, but to also take advantage of the educational opportunities that are there, the field trips, the opportunities to get exposed, to be able to come out on the other side of that. I think I identify so much with parents, with students, with families, because I was in one of those households where my mom had to work and she wasn't at the school all the time, rally crying for me, because she had to go out and work and provide. It wasn't because she didn't care. And so there needed to be a system in place to care for myself and my siblings in her absence. And we just don't have one that we can trust.
Wow. So where are you originally from?
So born in Flint, Michigan, but I was raised most of my life in Memphis, Tennessee. So I've been living in majority heavily Black towns, and really towns where there's a lot of people of color in positions of leadership. And so Charleston has been a little bit different for me in that respect.
Yeah, Charleston will be like that for you. How long have you been here?
I've been here for 6 years.
All right, cool. 6 years. All right, cool. So Flint to Memphis to Charleston.
There was some more in there. Flint to Detroit to Lansing to Nashville. My mother, and then actually I went to grad school at University of Mississippi, so I lived in Mississippi for a bit. I did an 11-month stint in Alabama, and actually Charleston is the longest time I've been anywhere since I graduated college, and it's because it really just felt like home once I got here and met friends and made community. And my daughter now is from here, and it's been a good place for me. But yeah, my mother moved us around quite a bit when we were younger because she was a young mom trying to figure out her way. And so she moved for jobs and things like that.
That's good. That's good. So what is on the Courtney Waters plan for improving Charleston County schools?
Yeah. So, I think there's so much that needs to be done. But when I think about education from a national perspective, for the last over a decade, folks have been saying, we're going to change the school. We're going to reform school. There was Race to the Top. There was No Child Left Behind. There's all these things. And brilliant people put these things together, right? At every turn, we've got smart, thoughtful people putting forth plans, but they still keep failing. Success keeps eluding us for some reason. And I really think it's because at the heart of it, we've got structural inequalities caused, by racism. Racial inequity, I think, is what prevents us from making progress. Because we're not willing to call out and name the issues, we're not able to then unpack ourselves and figure out how we clear our own implicit bias when we go into the school system. And it's not just in instruction with children, but you got to think critically about, okay, what would it really take for this to be a fair environment? Well, you got to acknowledge that the policies that are in place are not actually sound enough to carry forward equitable work. You got to identify or acknowledge that, the funding formulas are not actually created in a way where education is going to be equitable for students who come from low income backgrounds. And so I really do think that our failure to recognize that our system is completely flawed from the beginning is the reason we haven't made progress. And so for me, on my program for success, I'm a huge advocate of restorative justice. I'm a huge advocate of culturally competent teaching and practices. I'm a huge advocate of just keeping children at the center of the conversation. I mean, my God, if you've never seen a situation where children are not the center of the conversation, it's this race. Yeah. I never expected it to be the way that it is right now. And I think it's because we have a lot of adults talking about issues that are way up here, but we've got to think about the day-to-day experiences of students more often.
I just want to take a pause real quick to pull up a sound effect.
Sure.
And I want to do that because I needed somebody to say that.
Okay.
Can we talk? Is it cool? Is this a safe place? This is a safe place.
Please.
All right. So I thank you, first of all, for saying that. Thank you for stating that. And I asked Ericka Cokley earlier about her feelings about the way the campaigns have currently gone. Elephant in the room. You are one of the slate members for the Coalition for Kids. Slate transparency. Joyce Green, also with the Coalition for Kids, is my cousin. I love my cousin. I support my cousin. Okay. And so I know that everybody that's with the Coalition for Kids is not a terrible person. This is something that I know. Do you want to speak to the idea that somehow with you being tied to the Coalition for Kids, it somehow speaks to your character?
Absolutely. And I appreciate you giving me that opportunity. One of the things that I think is important to point out is that I was running for office before a Coalition for Kids came and said, we'll endorse. I've actually been asked to run for office for the last 3 years, and it started with a neighbor who was very politically involved saying, I think you have a good voice. I think you have something to contribute. You should run for something. And then my friend Marvin Pendarvis, who's a state rep, was like, you should run for something. You got to do something. And I've always been sort of working with him and advising him on education stuff. But I think there's this notion that, we are not able to go into rooms and speak for ourselves and have integrity when the doors are closed because somebody's endorsing us. But I've been endorsed by several folks, several individuals, several organizations at this point, the Charleston City Paper, the Metro Chamber of Commerce, Clay Middleton, who's heavily involved in the political space, Marvin Pendarvis, Mike Brown, Shakim Marquette, Elvin Speights, like all of these different folks have come out and said, we actually met Courtney, Thomas Ravenel, who's a member of the community and Tristan community. A second ago, I was on a candidate forum giving him props. I didn't mention him by name because there was no time, but I was giving the program that he's running inside of North Charleston High School props, and somebody mistook me for saying I was trying to privatize and I'm just like, I didn't say that. I'm saying there is a Black man in the community who is running a program that the principal himself said has been incredibly useful in increasing graduation rates at North Charleston High School. And I'm vilified, you know what I'm saying, for saying that. And so I do not like the way that this campaign has gone because it has caused the issue to be how politics are played. Because here's the thing, there are organizations that endorse candidates at all levels, and there are organizations that spend money at all levels. But here I am as an individual running my own campaign, still raising money, going out with my mother and my grandmother when they were here on vacation, putting out signs, still calling people yesterday to see if I can get some folks who might want to go knock on some doors and do some last minute things with me. Because at the end of the day, this unlevel playing field that people are saying was there, it actually isn't there, because I've actually been hurt more at this point from having certain endorsements than I've been helped. And so in the eyes of some, you know, and I'm not here to denounce anybody or blah, because I think so many people have a real stake and an interest and a concern about education. And we're just allowing too much of the conversation to elevate and stay up here and not getting into what people's experience is, what people's plans are, how they can work together. Because one of the things, I mean, at this point, I feel like I've said so many times because we've been campaigning, is that a board has to function as a unit. You don't have power as an individual. So it's not about what Courtney wants. It's not about even what the Chamber of Commerce wants or the coalition wants. We are representing the community, and we have to figure out how to work with other community representatives and make one, aligned, concerted effort.
I wanted to, I'm so glad that you had an opportunity to say that, because a lot of times we get in these spaces and we do the niceties and we don't actually get to the heart of things. And so things go left unsaid, and then people say, well, they didn't talk about that. And it's like, no. Like, we're not running from this. I never want people to step into a space, especially Black people. Like, I'm very big on, us Black people, making sure that we're able to represent ourselves as ourselves. With that being said, I got a couple more questions I wanted to get to, and I'm running out of time. But how do we bridge the gap between the school board and the community? How do we do that?
They have to hear from and see the school board. At the end of the day, I think, the institution of the school board is hovering over here and the community is over here. And it's because there's not a lot of opportunities for the community to talk back. There have been some forums and things. I know when the mission critical items were happening, and there are meetings, but the times at which they have these meetings, what working parent can get off and go to those meetings? You've actually got to have a flexible job. You've got to be able to arrange childcare. And so I think, for one, communication loops are important. And I think also transparency. I think the school district needs to be intentional about explaining to parents why the options that are presented are the options that are presented and why others weren't the case. I think you have to talk back to people. And I think also bridging the gap is, it will come in the form of letting community-based organizations operate with schools where there's an opportunity to do so. And I know everybody's not. I mean, I worked in supply chain and I worked in procurement spaces, and so I do know that to give an organization a contract with such a large institution like Charleston County School District, 55,000 students and so on, they've got to be ready for prime time. But we can do something. You can work with the city to help incubate companies. I think when the community starts to see itself participating in the school board, whether it's economically, whether it's from conversation, things will get better. And there's a long way to get there, but I think we can do it with the right folks in seats.
Wow. Thank you so much. And I think I used all of my time, but I wanted to give you an opportunity to say anything. If there's anything that you wanted to put out there, anything you wanted to put out there, please do, and let them know how they can contact you.
Yes. So I have a website, CourtneyWaters.com. I also have a Facebook group, Courtney Waters, or Waters for CCSD. And I'm going to post a podcast that I taped earlier in this week on there soon. And if anybody wants to know where Courtney stands on education, I think this conversation I had with this millennial teacher, Shakira Langley, earlier this week was actually one of the best conversations I've had during this whole time, because I just got to be Courtney, the former teacher, talking to a teacher. So go to my page.
I'm a teacher.
Check out my stuff. You're a teacher?
Yeah, I was a teacher. I taught for 5 years. I didn't tell you.
Oh, you didn't tell me that. And let me get this link, because I'll post it too.
Yes, please do. I would love to, and I'll share it too. I'd love to. I've really enjoyed getting to know you. This has been pretty cool. I wish you good luck.
Thank you.
I do. I wish your campaign good luck. I like seeing good people who are passionate about education and who love kids. And I definitely sense that in you. So for better or for worse, I like it. So hey.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
No problem. Did you give them your podcast?
So yes, it's going to be posted tomorrow on my Facebook page, my Facebook group, Waters for CCSD.
Okay, and I also put the website, www.courtneywaters.com. That's it. All right, cool. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your energy, and I wish you sustained energy. Get some good rest tonight because y'all have, what's today, the 22nd? Y'all got what, 2 weeks left?
Yes, pray for us, brother.
Hey, 2 weeks left. Afterwards, let's get some coffee. Let's talk about this city and see how we can fix it.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you so much for joining me. You have a great night.
You too. Bye-bye.
All right. Yo, we made it through everybody. We made it through everybody, every single guest. I got through them all. I got them to start from the beginning. I'm gonna start from the beginning and roll my way through. We got through Kristin Graziano, Charleston County Sheriff candidate. Herbert Fielding, Charleston County Coroner candidate. Ben Pogue, 9th Judicial Circuit Solicitor candidate. Bobbi Joe Oneal, Charleston County Coroner candidate. Ralph Prioleau, BCSD School Board District 7 candidate. Elvin Speights, Charleston County's Constituent School Board District 10 candidate. Regina Duggins, Charleston County School Board candidate. Latowya Miller-Jamison, candidate for the President of the United States. Francis Marion Beylotte, the 3rd Charleston County School Board. Ericka Cokley, Charleston County Consolidated School Board candidate. Christian French, Charleston County School Board candidate, and Courtney Waters, Charleston County School Board candidate. Listen, man, we got through everybody. I didn't overpromise and underdeliver. I hope I gave everybody the kind of energy that they need. But I want to end here. Let me get some music. I want to end right here. Get some. Listen. Uh-oh, that's all my music. I was about to, you know what? Forget it. I'm not going to have music. Listen, we are not in a place where we can sit back and do nothing. We are not in a place where we can say maybe next time. We are not in a place where we can wait for someone to come save us. We are not in a place where Superman is going to show up with a cape and save the day. We are Superman. What is our superpower? Our superpower is that electoral vote. Step into the box, make your voice heard. If we don't do it now, when are we gonna do it? If we don't make our voices heard now, when are we gonna make them heard? Tonight, you heard from 12 candidates. Some are in the same race, some are in differing races, but all of them want your vote. If tonight's interview wasn't enough to secure your vote, do more research. Find out more about the candidates. I can tell you that each of those people are passionate. Each of those people stand by what they say. Each of those people believe what they say. Each of those people want better for us and for our children. Now it's up to us to do our part. Go out, make your voice heard, and vote. Go out, make your voice heard, and vote. Your vote is your voice. Your vote is your voice. And for those who say voting doesn't matter, I'm going to ask what I always ask. If voting didn't matter, why would Black people have gotten freedom, gotten integration, gotten to eat at the same restaurants and go to the same schools and all these different things, all before we got the right to vote? Why would that have been the last thing they gave us? Think about that. With that being said, my name is ReZsaun Lewis, and this has been Real Talk with ReZsaun, the election night special. I hope that I was able to provide some clarity for some of you who may not have had clarity. I hope I was able to help somebody decide on who they was going to vote for. If not, he probably wasn't listening. Got to be honest with you. Yeah. And always remember, God is everything, and without him, we are nothing, so never forget where your help comes from. Because if a man doesn't stand for something, He is bound to fall for anything. And that, my friends, is Real Talk with ReZsaun. Close.